to the Country Hipster Podcast. That music that you just heard was none other than the Unholy Four from Charlottesville, Virginia. The song is called Dirty Knife. Go check that out on, where the fuck do they have it? Spotify and Apple Music, and you know, you can check them out on Bandcamp and all that kind of fun stuff. So just, you know, we've been talking about the Unholy Four for like, you know, 5 months now. So if you haven't checked them out, go check out the Unholy fucking Four from Charlottesville, Virginia. To the far left is Adam, my brother and co-host, who is the country track listing query. I didn't have a real good one, but you always ask me for track list.
Well, I was saying before when you were, you know, sorting some stuff out, I put the album on Apple Music, and I'm like, I don't remember this album being this long. I'm like, I don't mind it, but I don't remember it being this long. And it's because I realized I was listening to
What the fuck is that?
That is an earwig. Yeah.
We have all sorts of crazy shit here at the Ottsville Record Garage. Like we had the earwig going around. We have fucking sometimes fruit flies. We had the mouse on the Cure episode coming up the wall.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like fucking crazy. It really is my garage. If anybody was wondering.
And it really is the country.
Yeah, and it really is the country. It really and this man who just spoke up to my immediate left is Mr. John Bryne from the John Bryne Band. So let's welcome John Bryne as our special guest here on the Country Hipster Podcast. So John, before I let you get into too much, I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Okay. So number one. Have you previously watched or listened to the Country Hipster Podcast?
Yes.
Have you?
Yeah, but I didn't know it was on Spotify.
But you didn't know it was Spotify. Okay, cool. It is. It's on Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And what do you think of the Country Hipster Podcast? It's the greatest thing ever, right?
It's actually really good because there's a lot of shite podcasts out there. And I'll say this. Yours is not shite.
Well, thank you. So. Appreciate that. Country Hipster Podcast. We're not shite.
Not shite.
I think that's, you know, we were talking about getting like certain like shirts made up. And I think that might be I think that might have to be. We got Country Hipster Podcast. We are not shite. What was the other one? Country Hipster Podcast. I'm a minor celebrity in certain circles.
Yeah.
Gotta like, you know,
it's not going to listen to itself.
There you go. That's a good jam. We're getting all this good shit from John. That's the other question. So John is the singer and a musician in the Philadelphia area and beyond, and he plays in the John Bryne Band, and which makes me ask this next question: when they recruited you to be hired,
it's really convenient that you just happened to stumble upon that.
So,
I know.
So was that because your name is John Bryne, or was it just a happy coincidence?
Happy coincidence. Yeah, I wish I'd put more thought into it, to be honest. It was originally a side project.
Okay.
And it was originally just going to be a solo album from my old band, Patrick's Head. We were kind of like tied up with this label thing, and so it was going to be a side project. And so I recorded this album after the wake, and then I went to set up a website for just johnbyrne.com or something like that, you know. And there's a Marvel comic artist by the same name who's apparently very, very famous in that field.
Okay.
And so there was 1,000 websites devoted to this guy. So I was sitting there going, well, I'm going to call myself something else now. Or so I just started going through, and John Bryne Band was available. And honestly, like, I really saw the original record as a side project. I saw it as me making a record, making the album I really wanted to make, just after having dealt with label people and producers and, you know, partners that just weren't. I just wasn't happy with the situation. So that's what it was. I wish I'd called myself, you know, Bright Eyes or the tallest man on earth or something smart like that, but it didn't. So I was kind of stuck with it then, you know. So next thing, because the record did well, and so I'm like, all right, well, I guess this is what we have now.
Keep going with it.
It's good enough for Dave Matthews. It's good enough for me.
There you go. So what is the John Bryne Band up to? Where can people find you? All that
it's johnbyrneband.com. We're on all the usual places you mentioned, Spotify and Apple. But if you, you can go on the website. You can order albums, CDs. You can listen to your music the proper way, and that's the only way bands make money. You know yourself.
Yep,
I think we get like a third of a cent per play otherwise. So it's we're playing all over the place. Played Longwood Gardens there the other night, and that was brilliant. And we're making a record. I'm sort of making two projects right now. I'm doing a band record, which we've done a bunch of basic tracking for, and myself and my my right hand man in the band, Andy Keenan, we went into the studio and recorded a bunch of folk albums, songs, to that we're gonna sort through and see if we have a folk album
Nice.
as well. So that's kind of where we're at. We're busy. A lot of yourself, a lot of festivals in September, and then in October we go to Ireland to play some shows, and then a couple of things in November. World Cafe show at the end of November.
I was actually.
And then,
it's funny you mentioned World Cafe. I was actually just at the World Cafe Live the other day, and not to sidetrack it from the John Byrne Band, but I went to see the Baseball Project. And do you know what the Baseball Project is? Adam, do you know what the Baseball Project is?
You've talked about it. It's two of the original members of REM, if I'm not mistaken. You were saying?
Yep. It has Peter Buck and Mike Mills from REM. It has Scott from the Young Fresh Fellas, and a guy who's a solo singer songwriter guy named Steve Wynn, and then his wife Lindsay plays the drums, and she was in some other bands too that I can't think of. But it was a fucking great show. All their songs are basically about baseball, baseball stories. And the coolest fucking thing about it, I don't have it on the wall yet, but I bought one of their newest record, and I got them all to sign it. And like for me, it was like fucking number one. It's the closest I'm ever going to get to seeing REM live, because I never got to see them live.
Oh wow!
And then I got to meet Mike Mills and Peter Buck, and and I even shook Peter Buck's hand. So like totally 13-year-old Paul was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!"
That's
but
the best.
yeah, so that was pretty cool. So when is your World Cafe Live show?
It's I know it's Black Friday,
Okay.
which I think is the 24th or 25th.
Okay.
I have to
Let's
double
see.
check. I think it's the 25th. And after that, well, I'll be doing the Celtic Christmas show with Frank Daly and those guys at the Keswick. And I'm not sure what we're doing after that. I might take a wee break and get the album finished.
Black Friday is the 24th.
Yes, I was about
24th.
to say the same thing. So if you go on the World Cafe Live, their website, you can buy tickets to John's show at World Cafe Live on November the 24th. So you should go and do that.
Yes,
Yes.
you should.
Yes.
You don't need to be lining up outside a Walmart killing someone
That's
for
right.
a half-price telly. You can just come to our show.
Go to the show and
we'll,
support an international recording and touring artist. We've never had an international recording and touring artist on here. No, we haven't. So you're like the most famous person we've had on this this podcast so far, which is to say a lot, because I'm pretty famous.
I'm gonna I might put that in my bio now.
Do you remember the first time we actually met in person?
Now I'm gonna feel bad because
It's okay.
it's got to be at like one of the the Fla or
It was
something
the
like
Fla.
that?
It was the Fla.
Okay.
And this is when I knew, like, okay, I like this fucking guy. It was the Fla when it was at.
It's not gonna make me paint in a good light, is it?
No, it's great. When it was at Pennypack Park,
Yeah.
and you were standing at the side of the stage with John O'Callahan, and you guys were talking about stuff, and I happened to be walking up, and I say hello to John. He's like, "Oh, Paul, do you know John from the John Byrne Band?" I was like, "Yeah, fuck that guy," and you were just like, "All right, I fucking like you." So I was like, "All right, cool, yeah." That's when I knew you were cool. You weren't like, "Yo, what the hell is that?" You were just like, "All right, no."
I'm sure my brain went to like all right.
Yep.
Maybe he's got a sister. I don't know. It's like,
I do, and if you did, that's on you. But the other thing I remember, early on from knowing, because I've known you,
yeah,
God,
I
a
mean,
handful of years now.
10 years.
Yeah,
at least,
yeah. It's besides playing music, and when we lived in Fishtown, and I wouldn't let you cross Oxford Street.
Fair enough.
That's when I was the fattest hipster in Fishtown, and I turned into the country hipster.
Okay.
So that's what happened there. When I left Fishtown, I had to give up the fattest hipster in Fishtown title, but then I moved up to country, so I'm the country hipster now. But I remember another time. I don't remember what it was exactly that we were at, but like we're there, and you come up to me, and you're like, "Thank God you're here. I don't fucking know anybody here." And I'm just thinking to myself, like, God damn, if I'm your safety net at this place, that's pretty fucking bad. That I'm your safety net.
Oh man, I'm terrible in those situations. I never got past sort of just being nervous in like you put me in like a group of people. Even if I know a couple, I'm still the same like wallflower that I was when I was like 16. I just don't have. I think that's, I mean, and it's funny, I don't think that's unusual among musicians. I think that's a big part of the reason why we pick up instruments in the first place. It's kind of like, you can almost like hide behind the guitar.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? You can just
fucking say that all the time.
Like, you just,
Yep.
like it's weird. You know, you think, people think you're not, you couldn't possibly be an introvert or shy or like have crippling social anxiety and also get on stage. But it's kind of like, I remember seeing I think it was a line from like Bruce Springsteen's book that I remember listening to the audiobook version of it, and he said something like, you know, I look at the stage and I wish I could be that guy, and there's a thing about that, you know, whereas if it's all, you know, we get on stage and you get on stage and it's rehearsed, everything is like, we've rehearsed these songs, we know this stuff really well, where I know the things I'm going to say between songs, you know, I can see the song coming up, I know what little snippet I'm going to tell or what story I might tell here, and it's you know. But once you're off the stage, all that control that you feel when you're on there is gone, and you're like,
and
oh god.
I also I have this tendency of fucking with John whenever I see him, and especially if we're playing the same places. So I remember one time we were playing down in South Philly, down in the Italian Market, and Birmingham Six played first. And we had our set list up, and so like I left it there, and I just wrote on the top of the set list, "John Byrne is a fucking asshole," and just left it there, like right, you know, because I knew we would be standing in the same spot, and I left it there, and I know, am I saying her name Mara, your fiddle player. I know she saw it because she saw it and looked at me, and I'm like, yeah, and she just started giggling and kind of walked away. And I remember you're standing there, and you're like talking to somebody, and you're tuning up, and then I just see you look down, and you're like, you I
was kind of hoping it was a song you wrote.
No, but I love doing it. I love fucking with other musicians when they're playing. But I'm the same way too. Like, do you have the tough time talking to people like after a set or like in between sets when they're like, oh my god, like, and it's because they're always well-meaning, and people are always really well-meaning with it when they come up like, man, your set was great and and they want to talk about my music, and like, I clam up. It does. Believe it or not, it does. And it doesn't happen often, but like I clam up and I'm like, all right, thanks, man. And then they like want to just keep talking, and then finally I'm just like, I gotta piss. Yeah. And I might not have to piss, but I gotta get away. You know what I mean? Because like I gotta find a way to get away.
I mean, I'm the first person like at the merch table, like after a gig.
Okay.
I think that's an important part of, especially when you're at like my level, where you really. You know, you're the one who's going to be honestly like selling the CDs and promoting the band, and given I learned a lot from like being on like doing some tours and stuff with like the Young Dubliners or people like that, you know, who are like they're at a national level, and seeing that every, you know, Keith especially and Brendan would be out like immediately, so everybody kind of got that connection. Like everyone, like so many people who were at those shows felt like they knew. Like it was their friends on stage.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is when you might only be visiting that town like twice a year or once a year, you know. But you sort of, it is important, like to just sort of take that time. It's I can't say it's not something I enjoy. Like I do kind of enjoy that part of it. It's. You know, if it's like a bar gig and it's just somebody who wants to like scream in your ear.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's where I get
different, you know. And it's just, I'm like, yeah, man, I don't want to smell what you had for dinner, you know. But like when it's at your own show and you're there playing your own stuff and it's you know, I think that's I don't mind. I like you know when people come up and you know. So long as they're not kind of just monopolizing it, like they sort of get the hint that I got to go talk to other people too. But most people don't. It's great. It's a, you know, I enjoy sort of that aspect.
So you mentioned Young Dubliners, so I'm gonna give you a second to brag because I'm actually very interested in myself. Who would you say is like the most like, I guess, famous person you ever like played with or like opened for or anything or toured
opened
with?
For Ian Gillan.
Oh, really?
Purple, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was a very strange show. But yeah, we were kind of asked, and it was Ian Gillan and like his backing band with these like young dudes, big powerful players, and backstage was kind of funny. Like Ian had a manager. I don't know if it was somebody he was in a relationship with. She was a woman. This is a few years ago, but I remember she was like a big part of her job was, I think, keeping Ian on the straight and narrow before going out on stage. I don't know much about his history, you know, but he felt like a kind of that cool older rock star guy, bit of a kind of an Aussie vibe, you know, and we were backstage, and he was super interesting. Let us take pictures with him, let us chat with him, and all that stuff. We went out and did our thing, and it was funny because we're playing for people who, like, for me, like, looking out, it was like, it was all these like old guys in their 40s with like denim jackets and deep, you know, deep purple stuff, and we were doing our bit. We were an acoustic 3-piece at the time, but they were getting into it, and they were like banging the stage, and it was cool. So we really enjoyed it. But I remember thinking, like, this set is going to be strange, you know, like walking out, because I knew part of it was there was a contest. I think it was might have been MMR or YSP or one of the Philly like rock stations were promoting the show, and it was a contest, and the part of the contest was if you win, you get to play "Smoke on the Water."
Oh, jeez.
With Ian Gillan. So I was kind of like, you know, all of like my sort of, this is hokey kind of senses were going off. But he came out on that stage, and he was brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. You kind of just step back and go, the guy's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's like, he just, you know, he just walks, you just see someone who just effortlessly owns the stage and wasn't kind of like the sort of, I don't, I'm trying to think of, because it's not like grandpa figure, because he wasn't that old, you know what I mean? But he's sort of, you know, it seemed like it was like a little beat up by the years, you know. And,
it's like
and
a
then,
switch flips.
Then he just came out on stage and he had his shirt open down to here, and he's giving it all that, you know. But
that's great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few festivals that I'm trying to think, you know. The Green Cards we opened up for. Luca Bloom. I played with Luca Bloom quite a few times.
Cool.
He's brilliant. Saw Doctors. We played with the Saw Doctors.
Oh, now that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was really. We actually. I know they just did a tour over here, or just not a tour really, but they just did I think a couple of shows. But the last time that they were in the U.S., the last time they were in Philadelphia, we were the opening band.
Nice.
I remember because we were scheduled to play at Fido that night.
Oh, okay.
We got the call to open for the Saw Doctors.
Well, then you go open for the Saw Doctors.
And I had to kind of go crawling into Fido, who at the time were giving us a ton of work. And I was like, hey,
listen. But you got,
this is going to sound bad. It's kind of like, I had to do the same thing this year because we got the Free at Noon show on XBN.
Nice.
On Paddy's Day. But of course I had it's Paddy's Day. I had a gig lined up for months in advance, and I had to kind of go, hey. I feel, because my initial reaction was like, we can't do it. Like, I can't cancel. You know, I can't cancel on Paddy's Day on something, because that's just rotten. But I did get someone to cover, so that was kind of like last minute. So,
Very
but
nice.
I'm sure there's people I'm not thinking of. Sharon Shannon. Oh, that was such a pleasure. She was amazing.
Cool.
Lisa O'Neill. Some like we would often get to open for people who are very big in Ireland, and like would be playing like big rooms in Ireland, but wouldn't be playing.
Right,
would be playing like the Tin Angel over here, you know, or that sort of.
I miss the Tin Angel.
I missed that place so much. Missed that place so much.
Yeah.
But like the Tin Angel or World Cafe or Sellersville or like that, the kind of the level of venues that I was playing in anyway. They'd be playing in those when they were on the road over here. So we would get to open for them, but that's happened like so much less frequently since COVID. And I think even before COVID, it just was getting more and more difficult for foreign acts to get the visas and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of them just stopped coming over, you know.
Yeah.
So and also just I noticed that a lot of the venues that we used to play at, their rotation now is very heavily like tribute bands.
Yeah,
so,
I've seen that too. Yeah,
and I mean, as a segue into what we're going to be talking about, like I did sort of a Pogues thing.
Oh, we'll get into that. I have that on my list of things to talk about.
It just wasn't. It just
So one of the things I do remember, and I'm assuming you didn't do this for me, because I remember one time you were playing with Lisa Loeb, and I remember messaging you and saying you need to grab me Lisa Loeb's glasses, and I still don't have Lisa Loeb's glasses.
Yeah, they were prescription, and she really needed them. Like
that would have been great, though.
Yeah.
So, all right. So enough of your bragging bullshit. All right, Adam, what are you drinking there?
I just happened to find another one of the Neshaminy Creek Rita's Peach Rain.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yep. If there's not
is
another
it like a
one,
sour ale or
it's a tart. It's like a tart, but it's not a sour ale. It's fucking delicious.
Their stuff is so consistent. It's so good.
Yep. Yeah, it is. If there's not another one, if you haven't added it, and
there's the other one, and there's a mango.
Okay, so I think there's another peach in the fridge. We can grab you that peach.
Okay.
Or
I'm usually like more of a straight kind of IPA stout guy, but
you could also watch.
I do enjoy a sour. I like sours.
Yeah. You can watch our last episode where we actually did a tasting and review of all three of the Reader's combinations with the Neshaminy Creek, which actually leads me to my next thing. So actually, first I will say that John and I are drinking a nice 2021 Chamberson from Winecomb Vineyards, which is up here in Bucks County.
This is really good.
Local? They are local. Yeah, they're in Furlong.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make that sound like like local vineyards couldn't make. This is really good.
Well, no, it's funny you say because I know a lot of people who will say, I don't like Pennsylvania wines. No good wines come out of Pennsylvania, and I call bullshit on that. I've had wines from I haven't gone to California. You know what I mean? I haven't done Napa Valley or anything like that. But I've had Napa Valley wines. I've had Semi Valley wines. I've had Oregon wines. I've had Washington wines. I've had Pennsylvania wines. Like all over. I've had French wines. I fucking love wine. There are areas that just do it better because they've been doing it longer, or the climate and the soil makes a difference. But there are so many good Pennsylvania and South Jersey wineries out there. Like people don't give them a chance, and like. One day I'm going to do it. I have a friend of mine who lives like 5 minutes from here who's like, he will like fucking, I won't drink any fucking Pennsylvania wine. So I'm going to get him over here one night. I'm going to get a mix of wines and I'm going to put them out. I'm going to do fucking blind taste testing. I guarantee that he, not saying he won't be able to tell the difference, but I'm guaranteeing that he will find some wines that he likes. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But yes, so this is the Chamberson from Wycombe Vineyards, which I happen to be playing this Sunday. From 2 to 5. You like that segue? Nice. You like how I do that? So if you have nothing to do Labor Day weekend, this is Labor Day weekend, so thank you to your local labor union for getting us an extra day off this weekend. Stop by Wycombe Wineries. Try this delicious Chamberson. This is the 2021 vintage. I don't recall if I've had their other vintages. Usually when I go there, I'll drink like this Smokehouse blend. And Smokehouse, I think it's just called Smokehouse Red, which is a blend of their wines, which I always love. And the one owner, that's what she always drinks. But then when I played there last time, she was drinking a Chamberson, and I'm like, "What? You're not drinking a Smokehouse?" And she's like, "Our Chamberson is really fucking good this year." So that's why I got this, and this is really fucking good.
It's really good. It's really smooth. And
it's like jammy, but not in a sweet way.
Yeah, not at all. Which is kind of a little bit what I find sometimes with sort of I'm saying like East Coast wines in general, you know, that it's I don't know.
It's nice.
Maybe they need to add things.
Yeah, possibly. But that is okay. So that is one of the things I was going to talk about. So I found out, didn't really know that was like really a thing. Jack, our producer and editor and director and everything else that Jack does, turned me and Katie. We went away for the weekend. We were up in like Wellsboro, PA, like up camping in like fucking 4 hours from here, and turned us on to this website called Wine About It, which generally what they'll do. It's funny what he was telling me. He's like, well, they drink wine, but none of them actually like wine. So it's these two women, QT Cinderella and Michaela something or other. I can't remember Michaela's last name, so I apologize for that. But you should check it out. Wine About It is the name of the podcast, and the episodes we were listening to, they weren't really talking about wine at all. They were talking about actually a lot about mental health and their lives in general, which I thought was pretty interesting as well. But they do like drink wine, and they'll drink other drinks and whatnot. And then the one host dropped like, yes, well we're not drinking today, but we are a drinking podcast. And I'm like, wait, there's a such thing as a drinking podcast? And Jack's like, yeah. I'm like, are we a drinking podcast? He's like, oh God, you are absolutely a drinking podcast. So I've only been promoting this as a music podcast. So I'm going to continue promoting it as a music podcast, but this is absolutely...
That's another t-shirt. It just says a drinking podcast, question mark.
Yes, there you go.
Drinking podcast with a music problem.
There you go. There you go. We should write that down. So we are officially, not only are we a music podcast, we are officially a drinking podcast as of today, which makes sense since we're, the whole
and I'm your first guest.
And your first guest as part of the drinking podcast.
Kind of racist,
even though we're
Irish, but
well, hey, listen. I am wearing my green shirt for a reason.
See that?
Yeah. Which, there's
Watch it.
another perfect fucking segue, because we have this Dublin fuck here. I'm wearing my green t-shirt, and we are here to talk about the Pogues, If I Should Fall from Grace with God. So, first, let me, since you say you've seen the podcast, I don't think you have. I think you're a fucking liar.
I did.
Okay, all right.
I didn't see the last one. I meant to tune in for the Joshua Tree one.
Yes.
But when I think when I thought I was going to be able to make it up for that, I was like, I better see what this is about.
Yeah, you should probably check it out first. See, like, do I really want to be a part of this? You know, which is understandable, you know, because we are, we're suspect.
I thought you were going to say alcoholics.
Well, no. Well, we do have a drinking podcast now, so it is possible. Which I will say this: when I looked up, I actually Googled drinking podcast, and like the first like 10 finds is that like they're all about like, you know, recovering alcoholics and not drinking and how to have a good time without alcohol and whatnot. So as much as we are having a good time with alcohol, I will say that if you are in recovery of alcohol or drugs, you know, betting, you know, gambling, whatever it is, you know, please, if you think you need help, reach out, get help, talk to somebody. We are not trying to like lead you down a path. We don't admit to our drinking problem yet. So, you know, I won't say that we don't have one, but right now we are celebrating it. And if you feel you need help, please reach out to somebody. Get the help that you need to get into recovery and to stay in recovery. So we do support you here with that. But if you're trying to do that, this probably isn't the podcast you want to watch. So, but anyway, the factoids on If I Should Fall from Grace with God. So, started off here. This is the third studio album from the Irish folk punk band The Pogues. It was released on January 18th, 1988, which was just after the biggest hit single, Fairy Tale of New York, was released in November 1987. We will get into Fairy Tale of New York in a little bit. This is the band's best-selling album. It peaked at number 3 on the UK charts and hit the top 10 in several other countries, none of those countries being America. With this album came 3 new band members. Phil Chevron, let's give it up for Phil Chevron, rest in peace. Yeah.
God bless him, yeah.
Yeah. He joined on guitar.
Wait, can I pause you for a second?
Yes.
Are any of the next people you're going to say also dead?
No.
Okay, because I had to get a beer.
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. And so Phil Chevron.
Wait, Terry Woods is still around. Is he Terry Woods?
Terry Woods, I believe, is still around. Yes, which he actually joined for this album as all on the sithran and other instruments, mostly like folk instruments, mandolin.
He was kind of a legend. I mean, he was like Sweeney's man. I mean, he was a folk legend.
Was he
already? Yeah.
Okay.
If you listen to like, I don't know if you listen to like the likes of Planksty or that, but sort of
not.
Oh wow. You should listen to Planksty. You'd love him. I mean, sort of the precursor to sort of the likes of Planksty was a band called Sweeney's Men, which had Andy Irvine and but Terry Woods was part of that, and it was kind of like a legendary, you know, folk arranger and musician.
Okay.
Like I mean, him joined the. I mean, I was too young to sort of know when it was happening, but I can imagine that the gravitas that he must have lent to the Pogues at that time, because they were still sort of. Because they'd come from London. A lot of I remember sort of being a little kid and sort of my dad and his friends like thinking like the Pogues were kind of like you know, they were shiting all over Irish music, you know, like it's sort of like so I can imagine that sort of someone like Terry Woods joining was I think probably more monumental than a lot of people could imagine, you know, looking back now.
And it's funny because you know, side note to that. Well, actually, let me go through the changes in the lineup there. So Terry Woods, as you mentioned, he joined the band, and then Daryl Hunt was brought in on bass, and he replaced Kate O'Riordan, who ran off with Elvis Costello after he produced the Pogues' second album, Rum, Sodomy, and The Lash. She basically like stopped showing up for shows and shit and was hanging out with Elvis Costello too much, and they eventually did get married and so on, and now they're divorced. You know, but again, side note, Chevron and Woods were the only 2 members actually born in Ireland. The rest of the band was not. Even Shane MacGowan was born in London. He lives in Dublin now. Does he live in Dublin? I know he lives in Ireland. He doesn't live in London anymore, right?
I'm not sure where he lives. I think he lives like just a little south of Dublin. Yeah, I think like on maybe
Right, because
somewhere near Bono, I think.
Okay.
Somewhere near Bono's house.
And if I recall correctly, I believe it was his dad was from London and his mother was originally from Dublin.
No, both his parents were
Both
Irish.
parents.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we're Irish. But
listen to there's a great documentary actually with the same name, If I Should Fall from Grace with God.
Okay.
You hear his dad. His dad is the thick Dublin accent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think his dad was from. Well, his dad could have been from. I know the mom was from Tipperary or the where he used to stay in the summers. I think was around Tipperary.
Okay.
With an aunt or a grandparent or something, but like listening to his parents being interviewed, the dad sounded like my dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was talking about he was talking about the English police, or I think he was talking about the headmaster in Shane's school, that the school was like trying to kick him out, and his dad was going, I told him to go fuck himself. I was like, that sounds like my home.
Speaking of your dad, we got to raise one up for it.
Cheers.
Mr. Burns.
Aye.
All right. Chevron and Woods joined the band. They were also the first ones to contribute it with original songs that were not written by Shane MacGowan and Jem Finer. So that definitely changed it. This album moves away from like strictly like a folk punk type of influence and adds pop, jazz, like a Spanish influence, while still holding true to the Irish roots that are there in Rum Sodomy and the Lash. If anything, it's like, it's definitely a step forward for the band. I don't think they changed like fundamentally. I don't think they changed. I think they took a step forward and polished it a little bit more, in my opinion. Between the two, when you look at Red Roses for me and Rum Sodomy and the Lash, and then you go into, If I Should Fall from Grace with God, it's like you're here and you just went here, but you're still on that same path. It's just a little nicer.
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, I go back and forth as to which is my favorite Pogues album between those two.
Okay.
But this is such a. I mean, I listened to this just sort of, I mean, it's an album that it's funny. I was listening to it, thinking to myself, like I get all the same feelings from this record as I did when I first heard it at 15. And it was, like back then it sort of blew me away because it was so different from everything you'd heard. And we'd sort of been like, before they did this, they had recorded the Irish Rover with the Dubliners. Because I think they had a record contract issue. I think Stiff Records went into administration or something, so they couldn't do anything for a couple of years.
Adam, I need a beer.
And, but so we were kind of
Thank you.
You told me not to do it.
But they were kind of starting to sort of their reputation was starting to grow. I think they had done. I think sort of them teaming up the Dubliners to do a couple of songs was a big thing. It got them on like Top of the Pops,
right?
Like the Pogues and the Dubliners. On Top of the Pops was like American Bandstand for those of you who wouldn't know. It was like a top 40 show.
Right.
Went out every Thursday. If you were on Top of the Pops,
chances
were your record was going to shoot up the chart.
You were already there, or you're about to be there.
Like if you got on Top of the Pops and your record was like at number 36, you were going into the top 10.
You were going to the top of the Pops.
Yeah. Exactly. But
so what's cool about this, so the CD version of this album that came out includes 2 tracks that are not on the LP or the cassette, which are South Australia and the Battle March medley, which honestly I never really put that together because I had the CD growing up, and obviously I own the album on vinyl, but I know when I was listening to this, like I didn't miss those songs, you know what I mean? And then as I'm like, oh fuck, there's no South Australia on here. The Battle March medley's okay. I think that's an instrumental, isn't it? Yeah. So I didn't really miss that much. But South Australia, it's funny that I kind of missed that it was on the LP, since we actually covered the Pogues version of South Australia on our first album, Birmingham's first album, Irish Tragedies. Wow. To the point where I'm not that good. I'm sure you've noticed, I'm not that good of a guitar player. So, they'd have that little like lick and a bit, it's all on like the acoustic guitar. I couldn't fucking do that. I still can't fucking do that. And that was 2008 when I was even just slightly removed from being a bass player to be playing guitar. So actually our producer Brett Talley actually plays that on the album. Like he played that. He played the original like that's on our copy, our cover of it, and then then I play the rest of the guitar in it. So I still can't play it. So and that's another thing too about this. Speaking of covers, so the cover that was released in the North America's, North America, Canada, and the U.S. is different than this cover. This is the cover that was released all around the world, which has the guys sitting there with their instruments. It's a little glary right now. Whereas the cover for the CD and the vinyl in the U.S. Is all the members, and it's like a fake photo. They've actually photoshopped their faces standing next to James Joyce. And James Joyce is actually, he's the great Irish author, and his face is actually in there, but it's all those guys, which I didn't even put it together till I'm like, oh fuck yeah, the cover I had on my CD was different. Critically, this was well received. As I said, it was charted number 3 in the UK and certified gold in both France and the UK, which means it sold over 100,000 copies in each of those countries, respectively, right? Is that
Respectively.
Respectively.
Yeah.
Thank you. As we know, I have trouble with words and grammar here, so it seems to get worse as I drink. And but as Tom pointed out last week, if you give me French, I can do that without fucking thinking about it.
You can pull Menage a Trois out.
I can do. I can. I have not pulled a Menage a Trois off in many years. So, in 2006, Q Magazine placed it 37 on the list of the 40 best albums from the 80s. It was also included in the book 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die, which now I actually want to check out that book, and ranked 975 in the 2000 edition of the all-time top 1000 albums by Colin Larkin, who is the creator and editor of the Encyclopedia of Popular Music. So since we've basically have kept Adam silent for the last 37 minutes and made him our bartender.
No, that's fine.
Adam, what are your feelings on this album?
It's fucking terrible. No. When I first heard, the first time I heard the Pogues, it wasn't the Pogues playing it, it was Paul. First time I ever heard the Pogues, it was Paul, and you mentioned Brett. Are Brett? They're not together anymore.
Susie?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're not.
Yeah,
They're
Brett, Paul's ex-sister-in-law.
and my ex-brother-in-law.
Yeah. They, it was Paul and his ex-sister-in-law playing Fairy Tale of New York at a, I believe it was at that coffee shop in Hatboro.
Yes. Yep. Which is no longer Daily Grind is what it is.
Yeah, Daily Grind, and now I believe it's a, it became a sushi place, and I believe now it's a tattoo parlor.
Nice.
But I remember hearing it and liking it initially. Mainly because when the first time I heard Paul play it, I was probably, I don't know, anywhere between 11 and 13, and they say a very inappropriate word in the song, and I was like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, and I remember, I just always loved the song. I remember saying to Paul after the fact, what's the name of that song that you guys played? And I think I actually I referred to it as like not the word I said as like, I don't remember like anything else besides Susie calling you a scumbag, and you're like, oh, Fairy Tale of New York, and I'm like, cool. And I remember having, and I believe I got it from Paul as well. I remember having a burnt copy of this CD. And really, really enjoying it, and really just, Paul's talked about, I listened to a bunch of pop punk and emo bullshit, so this wasn't like anything that I ever, this was it's completely different from any of the shit that I listened to at the time, and it was really good, and it was really catchy, and it just was fun to listen to. Paul, actually, my wedding song was actually the Pogues. My wedding song was "Love You Till the End" by the Pogues. Paul played it at the reception.
I did, and that's when that little fucking ginger bitch.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I actually love her. I love her to death. What's her name? Caitlin.
Yeah.
So our brother Zach, his one of his daughters was like 3 years old at the time. and I hadn't met her. There's a whole backstory to that, so don't be like, how did you not fucking talk? Although I didn't meet Haley till she was like 3 either, and she is a direct kid. But that was
there's also a whole backstory for that as well.
All right, so we're at Adam's wedding, right? And I get up and I play this song, and I'm fucking feeling good about it. I'm like, fuck yeah, I just fucking nailed that. Adam and his ex-wife, they're dancing. You know, if you ever like really want to make sure a marriage is successful, don't involve me. Apparently, is the key there. But at any rate, so I fucking played great. I'm like, oh man, I felt really good, man. They looked happy, and I sat down, and the little fucking ginger looks up to me, and she's like, Paul, why did you do that? I was like, because they asked me to play their song and sing their song for them so they could dance to it. And she's like, that was horrible. I just look at her mom. I'm like, yo, Becky, your kid, she's a fucking asshole. But I was just like, God damn it. But I do love that kid. We have the same birthday, so I gotta, I give her a hard time for that. But I was just like, God damn it, you little ginger. So yeah, but all right, go on, Adam.
Yeah. So basically everything that I know about the Pogues comes from Paul. Actually, I was very recently, my girlfriend, I played Fairy Tale of New York for her, and she has said to me countless times before that she does not care for Irish music, but she fucking likes If I Should Fall from Grace with God. Mm-hmm. Specifically Fairy Tale. Like same thing how I asked you. She would be like, what's the song? What's the song with the chick where she calls them? And I'm like, I got you. So Paul turned me on to Irish music. I'm kind of trying to turn my girlfriend around on Irish music through this album, and I think it's working.
Okay.
I was playing a bunch of other stuff, from it that she was really enjoying as well. So
if you want to continue on that path, do yourself a favor and do not play anything from the John Byrne band. So just,
because she'll leave you from.
It's understandable. I wouldn't blame her.
He's so romantic.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I was excited when Paul initially gave me his top 25 albums. I was like, fuck, can't wait for that one.
Uh-huh.
And then it came, and I was like, awesome, I can't wait to talk about it. And then I realized I would have to make a top 3 and a bottom 1, and I was like, fuck, that's gonna be difficult.
Yep,
it's really hard.
It's a good fucking album. It's
top to bottom.
And I was saying to Paul, I was listening to the wrong version of it. I was listening to the hour and 4 minute long.
Oh, so you were listening to like the songs after Worms. Yeah. Okay. Which I want to say so I might fuck up and we can't talk about our top 3 or our bottom 1 yet, but I will say that I am not counting Worms as a real song.
I'm screwed.
So that's your least favorite.
I'm not because I'm
not counting that as a real song. Kind of like with that fucking stupid intro to Brand New.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a real song. I know it gets its own track and it's 1:30 long and all this kind of shit.
That was crawling.
But no, I'm not counting Worms as a real song.
Okay.
So you got that's your least. You got to think of something else.
I had to back up because I figured that might be the case. Okay. But yeah, it's trying to like listening to this album even the hour-long version. I listened to the hour-long version of this album probably like 8 or 9 times in the past few days, and I'm like every time I run through it, I get to the expanded version ends with South Australia.
Yep.
So when South Australia finishes, I'm like, fuck. I'm like, I gotta listen again. I gotta go again. So to try to narrow down a bottom. Mm-hmm.
I had difficulty with it too, man.
You could put the track listing on a wall, chuck a dart at it, and anything it hits could be in your top 3.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's a really really fucking good album. I might argue that it's so far, at least in my opinion, it's the best album that we have covered.
I think it's the best complete album that we've already like. There are albums that we've covered that I personally hold more dear.
If I had this on vinyl, it would have gone on my top. It would have gone on my 25 in a heartbeat.
Right. So there are albums that we've already covered that I would if I was doing like my rankings, like, because that's the thing with this 25, we didn't really do the rankings, you know what I mean? But like I have mentioned how there were a couple albums where it was like bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
This actually wasn't like an immediate like grab
really?
for me. No. It was my second tier immediate grab. Like I had my like first 5 or so where I was like, boom, boom, boom. Yes, these absolutely have to be in there. And then I kind of had to like first time look about. Oh yeah, well I have to have this fucking album in here. Although thinking about it, I'm like trying to think. I know I have one other thing by them in my collection. I know I have Poetry in Motion, which is like an EP in my collection.
It's amazing to think that if that album with like Rainy Night in Soho and Body of an American. Like, I don't even know what they'd replace.
I know.
But imagine like like the level of songwriting and not just like the level of songwriting, but how like every song on that record, on this record, was thought through so carefully.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you never know exactly where the song is going to go. Mm-hmm. Like it can go, like you listen to like Turkish Song of the Damned and it's got this sort of minery, like weird sort of the drum beat, and then it sort of clicks into this super catchy chorus. But the story behind the song is like a guy who like stole money from a sinking boat.
Yep.
And is like his mate who went down with the boat. He's on some island somewhere. His mate is going to basically come up and like drag him back down again, and your money won't save you. Like it's so there's so much darkness and so much coolness, and it's I'm sure you probably saw like the funny story about that.
I actually
title.
haven't. No.
Apparently, it came from like there was a B-side. They were on tour in Germany, and the Damned, the band, the Damned, had a single out, and on the B-side it was called like the Turkey Song or something, the Turkish Song, and someone said to Shane MacGowan like, "Do you like the Turkey Song by the Damned?" And he sort of heard the Turkish Song of the Damned.
Oh, that's great.
And that's apparently where the title came from.
Oh, that's pretty great.
But it's
But how you're saying about how the song's so well thought out and it has all
so
that stuff.
the arrangements, I always wonder if like how much sort of the likes of Terry Woods had in terms of like, because you listen to Red Roses for Me, great record, but it's pretty straight.
Yes,
all the songs are pretty straight. It's like energy,
Yep.
And same to a degree. Rum Sodomy the Lash got more ornate.
It did,
I think,
and I think, in
and
my opinion, it's the Elvis Costello. Yes, I think that's his influence.
His influence also, like but there was clearly more thought. There was more a little more arranging going on. But then like you do take it to Fall from Grace of God, and I don't even know. Like first of all, it sounds brilliant. Steve Lillywhite was probably the hottest producer in the UK at the time.
Right.
Like he was doing, all the early U2 stuff and everything. But like, and it's still to this day, like these are all acoustic instruments, and you listen to that record, and they're all right there. They're all right where they're supposed to be, which is incredible for anything. Like you listen to most albums from the 80s, and you kind of go, all right, that's of its time. Whereas this is like
this is timeless. It's timeless. Yes.
Yeah. But the arrangements like all the way through, like you never know where a song's gonna go.
And that's the thing with the Turkish Song Damn. Like you have like that the verse which is like and it's kind of like spooky, and then it goes into this like this dancey almost chorus,
sea shanty-ish kind of,
and then at the end it goes into another fucking reel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's just like a totally like different. It's like Turkish Song of Damn. It's like, wait, where the fuck did this come from? So like, I mean, it's definitely it's almost like 3 songs in one.
Like I love folk music, but I also understand that folk music can have a predictability about it,
right?
Because the focus in folk music tends to be, or in ballads anyway, or songs tends to be on the words,
right?
On the story that's being told. So it's almost like, and I do this even when I'm writing myself. Sometimes you pick a progression that the listener immediately settles into. So you settle into this sort of like, okay, I know, I already, it's like in your head you already know this song. It's kind of like a blues thing. It's like if you go to do that 1-4-5 and like you're already there, So the music is kind of like sitting back here, and next thing your focus is on it's a blues song, or your baby done left you, or who's some lord's wife you're messing around with who's gonna kill you. So the story becomes like the focus. Whereas with these songs, I mean, they were writing folk songs and just turning them on their head, like in the same way that Dylan almost like turned like American folk music on its head. It just nobody had heard it to this level before. I'm sure there were bands who were doing it, because you can never say nobody was doing it, because we didn't, we didn't hear everybody.
The closest, at least as far as like popular music goes, especially coming out of Ireland, that I would compare the Pogues once they hit this point, the Fallen Grace of God, would be the Waterboys, who were not even doing necessarily like the folk part of it. They were definitely more of like an 80s rock band with some folk instruments.
They went folkier afterwards.
Afterwards, yes, yeah. But like when you look at like even like like Fisherman's Blues is not. That's more of a rock song than it is. It's got a folky feel to it, but it's more of a rock song. And even like the Hole of the Moon.
Yeah,
that's a song that like that's an MTV song in my opinion.
Yeah,
great song. Don't get me wrong. It's a great song.
I love it.
But like that would be like the closest I would even think. And then you had Black 47, but they were from New York. They weren't from when they came out with like the Funky Kelly and James Connolly and all that. They were not like from.
Well, I mean, Larry's from Ireland,
right? But the band itself formed in New York. You know what I mean? So I don't consider them like an Irish band.
But also, like, I mean, what they were doing. I mean, a lot of Irish sort of music historians would say that something like what the Pogues did could never have happened in Ireland. Like, it had to happen from the diaspora. And you could say the same for Black 47. It's kind of like they were sort of infusing almost like, I don't even want to say hip hop rhythms but what they were infusing was very American, was very of the streets of New York, you know, and couldn't have happened in a authentic way probably in Ireland at the time, you know.
So it's funny actually. They mentioned one of the things that is mentioned on the wiki thing is that they're like a folk punk band. Adam, what do you feel? How do you feel about folk punk? And do you even know what that is?
So. When you say those two words together, I don't like. When I think punk bands, I think punk bands that were, I think punk bands that people automatically assume. What's the word I'm looking for? Identify with. Like Clash, Ramones, stuff like that. When you say punk in describing this album, my mind doesn't initially go there.
Which is why the folk punk is important. So like I would throw folk punk bands like any like modern punk band, and you jump in and tell me if I'm wrong here. So I'm throwing, even though they call themselves shanty punk, Skinny Lister is a folk punk band. Frank Turner is a folk punk band. Chuck Reagan's solo stuff is folk punk. Tim Barry is folk punk, even though he kind of teeters on that like almost outlaw.
But is it just like kind of folk music with like a punk attitude?
Kind of to an extent,
kind of
like
alt country would be like sort of country music with like a punk.
Yeah, but so I would consider Wilco alt country, but I wouldn't put them in a punk category.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, I think the Pogues. I think what the Pogues were doing was, I think maybe if you go to sort of Streams of Whiskey or stuff like that has, there was punk attitude.
Yes.
I mean, Bottle of Smoke. 20-5 to 1. My gambling days are done.
Yep.
I bet no horse got a bottle of smoke and my horse won. Like came up on the left like a streak of light, like a drunken fuck on a Saturday night. I mean, they are punk lyrics.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Without a doubt. In a folk song, sung at speed. Like, I mean, there's a definitely a punk.
Well, one of the
attitude,
reasons, one of the reasons that Birmingham 6 does not play Bottle of Smoke is because I don't think I could sing it.
Yeah, we
and I'm not talking about the range. I'm talking about the words. I don't think I could do it, play it, and sing it, and get it out, and have it make sense.
We did it a few times. I
saw you do
a challenge. Yeah. There's some. I think there's a YouTube video. Of
Is it right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the ones I was most proud of us pulling off. I think we pulled it off. Well, there's a few that I was really proud of when we dug in to do those. But Turkish Song of the Damned was that was difficult. I was playing some sort of we haven't done it in a while because I kind of stepped away from doing that Pogues thing. But I can't even remember the chord I was playing. But like Dory,
it's a weird chord.
Dory, my accordion player, was the one. Like I was playing what I think I thought it was sort of like a D diminished or something, seventh or something like that. And she's like, no, it's a everyone in my band is a better musician than me. They're all super musicians.
I have the same fucking problem, with the exception of the drummer, because no drummer is good. But it's just a drummer.
And all of them have, like, Dory hasn't played with me in a while, and Vince hasn't played with me in a while, but they're they're still friends, and but they're all all through the years they were like amazing. Like, but they would sit with the Pogue stuff and kind of go, you know, and it was, so it wasn't sort of just, you know, 24 hours to go. It wasn't like there's so much going on, but then at the same time, you know, thanks and praises, thanks to Jesus, I bet in a bottle of smoke.
So funny thing, back to drummers. Do you ever hear the joke is, what do you call someone who hangs out with musicians?
Drummer.
A drummer. Yeah.
So many drummer jokes.
Yes.
George Pearson, rest his soul, used to have all the jokes for
George Pearson
for everybody.
you need another drink there, sir. This is a drinking podcast now.
What you're talking about reminds me. I can't remember what episode it was on, but you told a story about being on the L, and there was a couple kids on the L.
Oh yeah,
singing. And some guy on the train is just screaming rock and roll at them.
Yeah.
When I hear this, I don't think punk, because in my mind, punk music sounds like the Ramones and the Clash and stuff like that. But like you said, them singing whatever the hell they're singing, them doing what they love for people who don't give a shit on a train, that's rock and roll.
Yes. Yep.
So to me, it's not punk music, but the punk sentiment is definitely there.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, and that's the thing. There is a difference between and it became more prevalent, I think, in the 90s. You know, when pop punk became more of a thing, later 90s, mid to late 90s. That you at least me personally, I started seeing the difference between punk rock attitude and punk rock fashion.
Yeah.
When punk rock became cool, which is fine that punk rock is cool, because ultimately, why does someone get into punk rock? Why does someone get into alternate music? Why does somebody get into...
Parents just don't understand them, Paul.
Well, yes, that's part of it.
Because damn the man. That's why.
But the thing is that those kids, me being one of them, never fit in with, I played baseball, I played soccer, I played basketball. I never fit in. I love doing those things.
You didn't fit into the norm.
I didn't fit in the norm, and I didn't fit into doing those things with those people. I enjoyed doing those things, and still to this day, I don't look back on, like, you know, my you know, youth athletics is like, oh, I wasted time doing it. No, I really fucking enjoyed it. I actually fucking loved doing it. But I didn't fit in with those people. Where I found my people was when I started getting into punk rock, when I started getting into alternative music, stuff like that. And that is the difference, because, like, I never looked like a typical punk rocker. I never had fucking studded fucking denim jackets or leather jackets. I did have a motorcycle leather for a little while. I didn't have the fucking mohawk or like the colored hair or anything like that. But I had a fucking punk rock attitude, and I still do have a punk rock attitude to this place, where I just don't give a fuck.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to get up and you know, some of my best shows that I've ever played are the shows where I've been like, fuck this, I don't care. I'm just going to fucking get up. I don't care if you're impressed. I don't care if you like it. I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to play because this is what I want to do. And that's the punk rock attitude, which is why when you look at some of those early CBGB bands that people talk about, oh, the punk rock scene, and they're like, well, Blondie's not punk rock. Well, the Go-Go's aren't punk rock. The you know, Talking Heads aren't punk rock. But if you listen to what they were doing at that time and you put it in there, those bands are punk rock as fuck. No. Plain and simple. You know, so that's where and with this album, it's kind of the same thing. Like, you know, yes, it's folk punk in the sense that it's doing it with the, you know, like a folk sense, but much like the Honey Badger, Pogues don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck.
I mean, yeah, but there's also, like, you know, on this album, there's just beautiful love songs.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, I mean, I suppose we can't talk about this album without talking about Fairy Tale New York, because it's...
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there. I have a special segment for that. Don't fucking
that's
jump segments, John. Sorry. God damn it, John.
And you know, I think that kind of, I think what you just said kind of lends into that like what Paul was saying, the punk fashion and the punk mentality is like, yes, they have, you know, they have, you know, probably, some people would probably argue, one of the best Christmas / love song / whatever songs on this album.
Again, another segment. Don't fuck me up.
I'm not going to. Don't worry. And then they also have Bottle of Smoke.
Yeah.
So they just, the whole idea of like, yeah, we're gonna do Bottle of Smoke, and then we're also gonna do Fairy Tale of New York, because fuck you, that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
That kind of lends into that whole punk mentality as well.
Not talked about enough, really, like as far reaching as Fairy Tale New York, and give Fairy Tale New York its due. Much better love song, much more beautiful love song, Rainy Night in Soho.
Yeah, I mean, that's we say, like, not on this, but like released on an EP before this came out, but could have been on this as well.
It's fucking. And honestly, when I saw you guys play it, I went to the Philadelphia Fla in May. I went early specifically just to see you guys. Which I'm not trying to suck your dick or anything. I'm just telling you that, like, you know, as Katie.
He texted me. He's like, I'm gonna try this.
Kind of a weird basement we're in.
but like, no,
because drain in the middle of the floor. Don't worry about it.
It's all good. So, but yeah.
Oh man, Dorothy, if you're watching this, I love you.
when I was like, you know, when I saw the lineup and I knew when Birmingham 6 was playing, and I saw when you were playing, I was like, oh fucking, because I had to leave early because I had another show that night.
we had the same thing.
Yeah. And I was like, oh fucking thank God John Byrne's playing early, because I didn't need to be there 3 hours or 4 hours before my set, but I was, because I wanted to see you guys play. And then you played that, and it's one of the best cover versions I've heard of it.
We love doing it.
But like, that song in general is just it's
stunning.
It's stunning, and it's simple. That's the other thing. It's so simple.
Anybody can play that one.
And it is more beautiful. It is a more beautiful love song than Fairy Tale New York. And Fairy Tale New York is a beautiful love song as well.
I think
well, Fairy Tale. I mean, I won't jump ahead. When we talk about Fairy Tale,
we'll get into it.
You know, that's like
when we get into the Fairy Tale of New York segment that you have planned. I think I might want to throw a caveat into something later.
We can do that.
You could do a show on that song.
Yeah, probably
we could come back at Christmas and just do a show.
Yes. So, so John, you've kind of been interjecting, and I like to get everybody else's overall thoughts before I go into mine. What are your overall thoughts of this album?
When this album came out, I loved it, because, like, growing up in Ireland, I thought you
were saying it's so
Irish music was kind of like my dad's music. You know what I mean? It was my dad. It was like the older men all sang the old Irish songs, and as much as I loved the Dubliners, like we didn't have a record player. I was probably maybe 10 before we had a record player. My dad had this sort of 3-album thing of the Dubliners, and I remember just that getting played a lot. And then as I got a little older and started saving my money and buying records, and you know, our stuff was you know, me and my brothers would be playing stuff more, but I like the Dubliners, and I enjoyed when everyone gathered, like, at our house and sang songs. And we sang a lot of Irish songs. But it still didn't feel like you know what I mean, like it was our songs. It was like belonging to them. And the Pogues had been around, and we were aware of them. We were aware of them because you'd listen to, like, RT radio, and there'd be, like, people on, like, complaining about the Pogues, like the Pogues, like, shiting all over. I remember, like, Self-Aid. Have you ever heard of Self-Aid? There's actually an album which I own. Self-Aid was it was a year after Live Aid, and at the time Ireland had something like, I don't know, 25 or 30% unemployment, like ridiculous unemployment in Dublin and in Ireland all around. So we had this big benefit concert, and U2 played, but the Pogues played as well. And that was kind of like a bit of a turning point, because people just saw, they didn't see them as just these sort of Irish, sort of English fellas and culture ridden, you know.
I'm sorry, real quick. I'm sorry. I'm connecting dots here. Self-Aid. Have you seen the movie Killing Bono?
Oh, did I see that? I think maybe I didn't.
I
think I maybe really wanted to.
But
hang on. I think I saw it. It's not that. It only just came out. Like, it's only maybe.
No, it's been out for a while.
But like maybe like 3 or 4 years though.
No, it's been longer than that. Yeah. At any rate, okay. So it just put me together. I actually meant to talk about it on last week's episode, the Joshua Tree episode, and it just fucking hit me. Okay, so viewers out there, I'm not trying to turn this into a summer movie club episode, but summer movie club better fucking do Killing Bono.
Killing Bono is 2011, by the way.
Oh, wow.
There you go. And you guys should do that, and you should have me on there, and possibly John, since he's from Dublin. But I think the bringing it all together.
Culmination
of the thing happens at the Self-Aid concert.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I think because it all just kind of fucking hit me, like thinking of that movie.
Self-Aid,
like,
yeah.
Self-Aid, yes.
Self-Aid was like a bunch of Irish acts, plus a couple of, like, Elvis Costello played it, and Chris Rea played it.
Okay.
And it was to raise money for I mean, it was. I don't know what the money went to. I think it went to like training programs and things like that, you know, for people who are unemployed. But anyway,
it was the IRA.
But it was. I'm sure there was a cut went somewhere, you know, knowing how things went in Ireland then.
Yes.
But,
even in Dublin.
But oh yeah, absolutely. The general got his cut, and the IRA got a cut from the general's cut. But it was but I felt like there was like more of a reverence then, or people kind of saw that they were doing it in a very reverent way. You know, it wasn't just like that there was this kid who like spoke with a London accent, and then who was trying to sing like Luke Kelly. You know, like that was sort of the who do they think they are? You know, but it was. Which is completely wrong, because we've been a nation of immigrants for hundreds of years, but the self-aid, I remember them singing the old. I remember them singing. I think it was the Old Triangle, and he nailed it. His vocals are brilliant, and his vocals by the way, all through this album, it was the last great Shane MacGowan vocals.
Yes,
you know, for sure. His vocals are phenomenal. On
I love
record.
Peace and Love. I love Hell's Ditch, but
his vocals were.
It's a different level.
Heroin was like taking over the vocal cords, but so when this album came out, I think If I Should Fall from Grace with God was the first single, and I remember hearing that on the radio, and it was like a punch in the face. Like it was just like, and it's only, I think, slightly over 2 minutes long. It's a very short song.
It's not.
You know,
it's
it was
not
just
very
like
long. Yeah,
just straight in, bang.
Yep.
And
it's a fun song to play.
And you just kind of go like, oh my god.
Yep.
Like this is like. It's still Irish. All the people who
2
are
minutes 21 seconds.
Yeah, all the people who are like, you know, older and into Irish folk music are all kind of going, you know, like I mean, it took them a long time to embrace the Pogues, but this felt like, this is for us.
It is.
Like, this is for like me. This is for like 15-year-old me. This song, you know, and immediately then. You're just excited. Yeah. You're just excited for the album because, you know, like back then, like they'd release a couple of singles because I think, as you mentioned, Fairy Tale came out before the album.
Yeah, the album came out November for the Christmas season, obviously.
And then the album didn't come out until
January
after Christmas. Yeah.
And then Fall from Grace was actually released as a single in February.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then after that, Fiesta was the third single.
Was there not another single before Fairy Tale?
According to the Wikipedia, it was Fairy Tale in November. And
I feel like there was a great show on RT Radio. Dave Fanning, and Dave Fanning was like the who's the English guy, John Peel. He was kind of like the John Peel.
Sessions,
He was kind of like the John Peel of Ireland. So like the first time you would hear, like I remember like listening to like Dave Fanning, like it was the first time I heard like Mandinga, like Sinead O'Connor. You know, it was the first time I heard.
Sinead O'Connor.
And just
Sinead O'Connor.
Yeah.
Recent too. I forgot about that.
Very recent.
And you know, so Dave Fanning was that guy. The first, you know, so. And he must have played it. He must have played Fall from Grace of God because I feel like I heard that before I heard Fairy Tale.
Okay.
Or maybe it was right around the same time. But that was like, it was just like a punch in the face. It was just like amazing. You know what I mean? And then Fairy Tale came out, and the fact that Fairy Tale then just started creeping up the UK charts, which we had our Irish charts, but honestly, we all sort of looked at the UK charts. It's kind of like soccer. Like we have our own league. But we're all kind of watching what's going on in the Premier League.
Yeah,
you know?
I got you.
So we're watching, all of a sudden we're seeing the Pogues, and it's creeping up. It's this weird song, you know, and it's creeping up the charts. So there's almost like there's a national, but all of a sudden, they're ours now, you know, and it's so Irish. Like, I mean, you know, a year earlier we're like, who do they think they are?
What?
Robbing our songs and stealing all our old melodies and turning them into, you know, kind of like, you know, the way Dylan took like the tune of the parting glass and, you know, wrote.
I will tell you that is also a Philadelphia mentality because nobody in Philadelphia gave a fuck about War on Drugs until War on Drugs became fucking huge. Then it's like, well, that's our band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like shit like that.
They win some Grammys. Oh, we love them now.
Oh yeah. Or you know, it's like if War on Drugs never like was that big, they would play to Philly to like 3 people and it would be like their parents.
Yeah.
Whereas like now they'll like fucking sell out all over the place. And like same thing. And that's just such like a Philly thing. It's like the best way for a Philly band to become like accepted in Philly is to go outside of Philly and become
like,
big.
Irish bands do that. I mean, all the Irish bands do that. I mean, you listen, like, I mean, Bob Geldof talks at length about how Boomtown Rats had to go to London.
Uh-huh.
You know, same like you couldn't because it's that nation of begrudgers. I remember seeing when I was a kid seeing Bono on the Late Late Show, which was like the Friday night talk show once a week, big thing. The country came to a halt, and he said like the difference between like I think they'd already maybe toured America a little bit, and he said, oh, the big difference in America and Ireland is like an American will sort of, and I think he was talking in general, you know, and it's very hard to generalize about America,
right.
but he'd say an American will look at the successful man with the big house on a hill, and kind of go, someday I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be successful like that man. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to be that guy, you know. He goes, but in Ireland, we look at the successful man with the big house on the hill, and we go, one day I'm going to get that fucker. Fucking kill him. You know, so there's a little bit.
I kind of agree with that.
I remember like the sort of all of a sudden this like swell of national pride as Fairy Tale was creeping up, and then it was like they're ours. We were immediately I think, and I could be wrong. These are my memories of like being like a younger like a teenager, but it was all of a sudden they were accepted, but but also at the same time we're hearing kind of what they're doing, you know,
right.
And everybody is paying attention to what happened, what they did in with Rum Sodomy and the Lash, and we're all just sort of buying the back albums, and waiting for the new one, kind of, you know.
And it is pretty amazing because I mean, honestly, like I did the same thing. Like I didn't grow up with Irish music, you know what I mean? I grew up with like rock and punk rock, and my mom constantly playing Billy Joel and all that kind of shit, and then eventually like I got into Irish music, so like I kind of brought that like thing.
What got, sorry, not to turn, but what was the thing, like what was it a band?
No, on it, well the Pogues were kind of that thing,
but even like, you know, was it, I mean, because I know like you grew up in like Northeast Philly, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, so it was like there's an Irish community, there's guys playing music, there's Tom Brett and Fintan Malone, and
so what did it for me was I was playing punk rock and indie rock for years. From the time I learned how to play guitar when I was 12 years old, and I could write 3 chords, I started writing punk rock songs. And that's what I was doing. That's all I was doing, punk rock songs. And then I moved over to bass. I was a much better bass player, and I was doing indie rock and had this very small little bit of success with that. And then my last project that I was doing with someone basically just fell apart, right? It just fucking failed. And I was pissed, and because I ultimately lost a little bit of money on it, not much, but you know, enough to piss me off. So I was actually done with music. I was like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm not doing music anymore. I'm just out. And that lasted about 2 weeks when I picked up an acoustic guitar and just started fucking around. And you know, the great thing about the internet at that time was I could start looking up songs that I couldn't figure out by ear. I'd start looking them up, so I just started looking up Irish songs. I'm like, oh shit, this stuff's kind of easy, and even as folk stuff is kind of punk rock.
Once you get the rhythm down, like the rhythms are weird, but the chords are like easy, but the changes are not where you expect them. You know?
And then honestly, maybe I sold out a little bit, but I knew there was an Irish music community in Northeast Philadelphia and Philadelphia in general. And I was like, fuck it. If I'm going to do this, if I'm going to put myself in the situation to play music again, at this point, I was married, I had 3 kids, I need to make a few bucks doing it. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it playing Irish music. Little did I know there's no money in Irish music either. But it's a little bit more than playing, you know, just punk rock and indie rock on your own. So that's what got me into it. I mean, like I've always been, and that's one of the things I have here. I've always heard Irish music as a kid. I've always been around it. I've never disliked it, but I was never really like my family. Even though you know my mom's mom was actually my mom's dad was from Ireland directly. My mom's mom's dad. So my great grandfather was from Ireland directly, and he married a Jewish Philadelphia woman who had the option of her fortune or her Irish Catholic husband, or soon to be husband, and she chose her husband and then went on to have 14 kids. So there was that. And then from my grandfather's side, they were from Scotland, but I think they went from Ireland to Scotland and before coming to America, and they ultimately came from Scotland. So you had all that, and that you would think that with that kind of background, there would have been more of an Irish culture, more of Irish music in the background. Not in my sect of the family for whatever reason.
I mean, it's pretty distilled. I mean, it is, you know, it's sort of kind of Pretty American by then.
my grandfather could have sang, When Irish Eyes Are Smiling, till anybody's blue in the face, and that was basically what I know. Plus, like, a little bit of Whiskey in a Jar and Wild Rover and whatnot. But it's funny because the Pogues were probably my first real true introduction to Irish music, and it actually came from Frank Daly.
Okay.
I remember.
So it was later. So
it was
like,
much later. Yeah. I was freshman in high school. What the fuck was that? You heard that, right?
No.
No. I fucking heard something. Whatever. At any rate, so I was 14 years old and going to Roman Catholic high school. And at the time, it's now a parking lot there, but there was a McDonald's across the street from Roman Catholic high school, right at Broad and Vine. And we would go in there in the mornings before school and, hang out until we had to go in, or, sometimes after school or whatever. And Frank Daly came up and he's like, dude, you got to fucking check this out, and put his fucking headphones on me and played the Pogues. Now, I thought it was Hell's Ditch. He says it was Peace and Love. Could have been either way, like whatever. But that's actually what turned me on to the Pogues and Irish music in general.
Right.
And which so I'll go into it. So, overall I love this album. But the first I remember hearing the Pogues was Hell's Ditch, which again, it could have been Peace and Love if that's what he had, if that's what he said he had.
It's a nice record, but you can tell it's a band that's struggling, Yes.
But Hell's Ditch, even though that's really my first introduction to the Pogues, is actually my third favorite Pogues album. My first one being this album, Fly Shall Fall from Grace, and number 2 being Rum Sodomy and the Lash.
Okay.
But because
Hell's Ditch ahead of Red Roses, and
I would, actually would. I would.
Hell's Ditch is on the bottom for me. Of the original 5 Pogues records.
But that's probably a thing, is because see, I don't really count anything after Hell's Ditch, like Pogue Mahone and Waiting for Herb. I just don't count them. Yeah. Maybe I should.
I kind of do, or maybe
fair,
then there's the 2 Shane MacGowan records, which first one was good.
Yeah, with the Popes and all, Crock of Gold and the Snake.
Is terrible.
Yeah,
Crock of Gold is just so disappointing.
Yep, but
I get into arguments with Bill Donahue.
Yeah. But
he keeps saying, no, give it another listen. I'm like, nah, man, I've given it.
Well, we've often said, like, on this podcast, that generally it's our first interaction or introduction to a band that tends to be your favorite, which in this case it's not. So my first, like, the one that I remember is Hell's Ditch. That's what I remember. Sunny Side of the Street, that opening to it, that opening riff. That's what I remember.
That's a great song.
As the Pogues. It is. And then what's the other fucking song that's on it? Sonara is like, the second. And it's like it's
Summer in Siam is on it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. So that's my first introduction, but again, it's not my favorite. This is my favorite Pogues album. I do put this, and probably that's probably why Hell's Ditch is number 3 in there, because it is my first introduction.
Yeah.
So, but definitely,
I put Peace and Love. I would probably put ahead of
Hell's Ditch. Yeah, overall, like, Peace and Love
is
like,
a great record.
It is.
I go running to that one all the time.
One of my favorite songs on there is Lorelei.
Yeah,
love that song. It's a beautiful song. That's another love song you should look up by them. Not as good as Fairy Tale or
but Misty Morning, Albert Bridges.
That's a great song too. That's a great song.
So such the arrangement. It's so vast. Did Lily White produce that one as well?
I don't know. Let's see with the Google machine. Who produced the Pogues?
Could you just put Peace and Love in?
Real quick while you're looking that up, Paul, I just want to say, thank you to Kristen again.
Oh, for these fucking...
Because this little... if you're listening or watching, whatever the hell you do...
I love this little hippo.
This little squishy rabbit and this little squishy hippo are like they're... Thank you.
Yes, once again, we would like to thank Kristen for her squishy things.
Kristen, I don't even know you, but...
But yes, these squishy things are great. I have my ball here, and I have clicked the pen a few times, and every time I click the pen, I'm like, oh no, I need a squishy thing. Yeah. So thank you, Kristen, again. You're getting another shout out there. But yeah, no, this album definitely played a like musically an influential point in my life, because I named my band after one of the songs on this album, Streets of Sorrow Says Birmingham 6.
I was named. I often wonder if it was named after the song or just named after the Birmingham Six.
It was both. Yeah. Because in the song itself, it mentions the Guildford Four and it mentions the Birmingham Six, but the song is the Birmingham Six, which is what had me even. honestly, even besides the Daniel Day-Lewis movie, I really didn't look into the Guilford Four too much at first. I looked into the Birmingham Six at first. And just their story and what those gentlemen went through. I've never been falsely accused of anything in my life. I've never been to jail or anything like that. But like I could empathize with what they've gone through, and thought it was bullshit. And just the fact that like it was to find out so much more, especially later on that the English police knew that these weren't the people who did this, and still fucking prosecuted them and said, no, like, listen, we know it's not you, but fucking sign this shit. Yeah. Fucking sign this shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like just the fact that something like that went on, and it just, like, yes, the Pogues wrote the song, but I also realized a lot of people didn't know anything about the Birmingham Six. Right. So part of what I wanted to do was to continue that story.
Just because my memory is terrible, what was it that they were accused of? It was
the Birmingham pub bomb.
Yeah. I would say it was. I remember pub bombing. Okay.
Yes,
I was making sure that I wasn't remembering something completely different.
6 men in Birmingham. In Guilford, there were 4, and the McGuire 15.
Well, they were Annie McGuire, and I mean they were part of the Guilford Four kind of round.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yes. And if you want to like look up on it, I mean, honestly, a real easy movie to watch is the Daniel Day-Lewis In the Name of the Father, which is more focused on Jerry Conlon and the Guilford Four and their story, but it's a very, very similar story to the Birmingham Six. And you can actually look up on YouTube. If you look up on YouTube, the story of the Birmingham Six, you will find a very nice like documentary produced a few years after they were released from jail.
Well, I mean, I believe it was like, is it Frontline where there was a document. I mean, basically, it was pressure by documentarians in the UK that actually got their case reopened.
Yep.
And I mean, it was travesty. I mean, again, obviously we're a drinking podcast and a music podcast, not a political one. But but you see the same thing here. You see the same thing when it's easy to sort of say, well, maybe he didn't do that. He did something. Just put him away for it.
Yep, exactly.
And it's lazy, corrupt.
Police work. It is. I'm going to say. I'll just say it. It's lazy, corrupt police work. Not to say that, like, again, not taking a political stance, but in the case of the Birmingham Six, that's what it was. It was, we need to answer to the public as quickly as we can with what we can, and here's the easiest people to pin it on because we have some circumstantial evidence, and we're not going to actually let everybody know that, oh, by the way, here's the evidence that clears these motherfuckers. Yeah. But we're not going to tell you about that. No. So it's you know what I mean? But that was important to me if I'm going to get in Irish music. Because, like, yes, we're not a political podcast, as I told you beforehand. We don't talk about politics. But how do you do Irish music? How do you play Irish music without getting at least a little political? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think you just have to be smartly political. And
exactly.
I honestly think the Pogues sort of, to me, like, that was why I loved the Dubliners. I mean, they would sing some of the songs, but I always felt like they sang. They were able to contextualize what they were singing about. I mean, they were singing old songs. They would sing bawdy songs. They would sing, like like one of my favorite songs when I was a kid was the Admiral Nelson song. Like about which the IRA blew up the statue of Admiral Nelson in the 60s in Dublin, and it was just funny. It was just bawdy and funny and kind of like that. That was, but they were the. I mean, I think am I right in saying probably the Streets of Sorrow / Birmingham Six thing on Fall from Grace of God is the only political song, Yeah,
really? I mean, to an extent, the medley,
the Battle March medley,
but that's talking more about World War One, than it is even.
That's the part of it is the
recruiting
sergeant,
yes.
which is part of a genre of songs like Arthur McBride and it's the one that Langham did, Sergeant William Bailey, which is like it's the same story kind of told in different songs.
Right.
Like the recruiting sergeant saying, "Oh, join the army. You'll have a great time. Well, it's like a vacation. Off you'll go, and you'll make some money, and you'll be respected." And
Right.
So that was just not necessarily.
It wasn't overly
like
political.
there are actually like American folk versions of the same sort of
Right.
recruiting sergeant genre.
Yep.
But yeah, it's the only political song. But at the same time, it's beautifully done, and
It is.
It's brave too, because this is a band that's trying to break through in the UK. That's their main audience.
Well, it was actually banned on BBC. And this was, this album, and you figure it this way, this album came out in 1987. That song was banned, and the Birmingham Six weren't released until, and the Guilford Four were not released until 1991.
Yeah.
So, and there was a lot that had to happen to get to that point. You had a lot of people rallying, and a lot of people, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the McElkenny family and the Farrells, who we know, Durham Farrell, who's here in Philadelphia. And one of the people specifically was his grandmother, Granny Mac, who was married to Richard McElkenny. Stayed married to him the whole time, even when, according to what I was told, he told her just divorce me, go on your way, and she's like, no, I'm gonna stand by you, and she puts us. So let's raise a glass to Granny Mac.
Granny Mac.
And Richard McElkenny, one of the members of Birmingham Six there. But yeah, but that's the influence this band had on me musically. Enough that, like, when I was starting, Irish music, I was going to name my band Birmingham Six. Funny story. There is already a Birmingham Six.
Oh, yeah.
But they go Birmingham with the number 6, and they are an industrial band from Denmark, I believe. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Let me see.
You said it from Birmingham, Alabama or somewhere.
Real quick, I just want to touch before you get too far away from it.
Danish. They're a Danish electro MBM founded in 1991, named after the Birmingham Six.
You said the song was banned on the BBC.
Uh-huh.
Having anything that you've made
Get banned?
banned by the major media conglomerate of whatever country you live in,
Right.
it's punk rock.
It's pretty fuck rock, and it's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But yes, so a funny story about that is that I didn't realize there was another Birmingham Six when I named the band Birmingham Six. And then someone's like, "Oh, you mean the industrial band?" I'm like, "What do you mean the industrial band?" So then I looked it up. I'm like, "Fuck." They had already broke it up, and so I pretty much turned to the rest of the band. I was like, "And you guys come up with a better fucking name, then that's our name. But until somebody does, we're called the Birmingham Six. We've never thought of a better name, so we're the Birmingham Six. And it's just, but we spell out SIX. We don't do the Birmingham with the number 6, although that's our Instagram handle. But not to confuse people. But but it is funny because when I'll see stuff when we're playing like bigger events or venues and whatnot, and, they have actual social media people, they will tag the Birmingham Six and they will tag the industrial band.
So funny. There's like, you look at the back of the room. There's some like confused looking Swedes. This isn't.
I never correct them because I think it's fucking hysterical.
He's got a Viking helmet on, going like,
Yes. So, but that brings us to the next segment, man. This is gonna be a long one, and I'm happy we haven't had a real long one in a while. Fairy Tale of New York. That brings it to us. Okay. So we've all talked very passionately and lovingly about Fairy Tale of New York. So the question that I have for you guys is it problematic, or is it the best Christmas song ever written, or is it both?
Before we get into that, can I talk about something?
Go for it.
Whenever you look up the 100 greatest movies of all time, the movie that's always number 1 on the list, Citizen Kane.
Which I've never seen.
Neither have I.
Yes. Have you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So it's always
No, I haven't. I'm sure I would have remembered, right?
It's always revered as like the greatest movie that's ever been made.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's unfair to list Citizen Kane as number 1 on top whatever. I think it's unfair, and I think it's lazy.
Okay.
Much like how you said we're not allowed to use Worms as our bottom song because you don't count it as a song. And I've said it before with other episodes. I'll list the instrumental as the least favorite because it's the easy way out.
Yes.
I think putting Fairy Tale of New York in your top 3 on this album is the lazy way out.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yes.
Whether or not you guys did it, that's another segment that we're not going to fuck up right now. But I kind of agree. Yes,
Citizen Kane may be great. Stop including it because we get it. It's great. Just we'll accept that that's the greatest thing that's ever been made. And we'll put it off to the side on its pedestal.
And to your point, look at and you know, I know we refer to this a lot. Look at the Rolling Stone several list of the top 500 albums of all time. I don't think the number 1 album is the same every time. No. The last one, the 2020 version, has Marvin Gaye, What's Going On.
Yeah.
So I think when you're talking about like things such as that is like the greatest of all time, right? You have to look at the times that you're rating it. You can't just say, you know, like, in my opinion, the Beach Boys' Pet Sound is the greatest album ever written.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that would hold true in 10 years as an overall.
Also, music is fluid. So,
exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yes.
Lankum's new album is definitely now in my top 10 favorite albums of all time. Lankum's new record.
Don't know it.
I should check him out.
I'll have to check him out.
Irish folk band, brilliant.
Okay.
But I don't know. Fairy Tale New York, and it's so funny when you first sort of sent me the text going like, yeah, come up with like your least favorite, and I thought to myself like when I listen to this record, if there's a song I'm likely to skip over, it might be Fairy Tale, but at the same time,
but there's a reason. Why yes.
But at the same time, if there's a song like I mean, I don't know that there's a song out there that's spoken of in such hushed sort of reverence as Fairy Tale and completely deserving of it all.
Right.
It is a brilliantly written song.
It is.
Like,
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I would have a hard time not putting it in my top 3. And again, we're talking about an album that, yeah, 3 of us love, and that 90% of the world has never listened to or heard of.
Yep.
You know, so it's still niche. Like when I got back to talking about like how me and my band were sort of thinking of doing like having a side project of doing a Pogues cover thing.
Right.
When we went to actually try and sell it, we realized that not enough people knew of or liked the Pogues.
So real quick. So to that point, we'll get back to because this is an easy segment to jump in and out of. John, Pogues cover performances. Why the Pogues specifically?
I remember the first time we did it. I didn't have a new record coming out, and we were playing downstairs at World Cafe, and I was concerned that we didn't have. We'd been playing mostly folk. We'd been touring mostly as a folk 4-piece after the Wake came out, because the band that I put together sort of for the couple of After the Wake shows were on drums and bass were kind of like hired guns. As it turns out, one of the hired guns was Freddie Berman, who's now my permanent drummer.
Okay.
But we were touring as an acoustic thing, and then we sort of I got a drummer and bass player, and we started playing, and I didn't know how to put people in a room, and I remember like realizing that, you know, from doing a lot of bar gigs, we did a lot of Pogues because it was something I gravitated towards, and I liked doing it, and they were fun to play. And we thought, like, man, maybe we can like do a show. So this is around maybe 2013. We were doing a World Cafe show, and I said, let's just make it a Pogues thing. Let's just see if we can pull it off. And it was really fun. And we picked, like, we realized we already knew 25, and then it became like a bar gig side hustle. But also we got really into it. Like, we started going like, all right, what have we not learned yet? And we're going through them and like learning them and realizing just how complex and amazing some of them were, you know. So I went to a guy. There's a guy who I knew through the band Citizen Band Radio, who we'd done some shows with. An amazing like sort of country rock band that Andy, my partner in my band, was in, and they were managed by a guy who mostly managed tribute bands.
Okay. So
I went to him with the idea, and he sort of tried to sell it, but he just kind of came back and said, I don't know, it might be just too niche, you know. But like,
yeah.
And I kind of agree. Like, we were able to do it here, and like, you know, do a night at like Tiernan and have like 60 or 70 people show up and you'd look out and you could sing the most obscure Pogue song and they're all singing along with you, and it was fun, you know. But it wasn't. I realized kind of like, unless like we were, because going back to your sort of your name thing, I was going to say like, yeah, we're going to call it like the Boys from the County Hell, and we're going to set up a separate website.
There was a band called the Boys from the County Hell.
Yeah, yes. I know, like from Cleveland or something. So
here in Philadelphia,
really?
Billy Donahue, Fran O'Connor, and I forget who
no
else
way.
was in the band. But that was like their first foray into Irish music. Was the Boys from the
when
County
I googled it, I found a band in like Ohio,
probably
Ohio,
it's a pretty easy name.
So
to go
yeah,
to.
I thought it was the first one to think of it. So we went. Because what I wanted to do was create like a very clear line between if you're coming to see John Byrne or John Byrne band
and something different,
or if you're coming to see a Pogues thing.
Yes.
In the end, it kind of now we sort of we'll throw them. If you come and see us live, if we're playing an Irish festival, you'll hear us do like a handful of Pogues things. Well, if you're coming to see us play like when we're doing like an original show, we might throw in one, like Boys from the County Hell is kind of one of our favorites. So,
and that's kind of like one of the things that's actually like cool about doing the poses, and this is what I found. So like ultimately, when we're doing, and this is one of the things I like about the Birmingham Six. So we could do pub shows. We actually don't do a whole lot of pub shows anymore.
Yeah, I don't either.
We do the pub shows. You you look at the stuff that you're doing, right? And so like we could play a bunch of Pogue songs, and it will generally be overall received. Mm-hmm. If we play too many Flog and Molly or too many Dropkick Murphys, people don't know those. So someone will say, play Dropkick Murphys, which means they want to hear Shipping Up to Boston or Kiss Me on Fist. What I mean, Kiss Me on Shitface. If they want to hear, if they say play some Flog and Molly, they want to hear Drunken Lullabies, or if I Leave This World Life. Yeah. Maybe they want to hear What's Left of the Flag, but they don't want to hear the rest of fucking Flog and Molly.
I always want to hear What's Left of the Flag.
Well, it's a great song. But if you go and you say play something by the Pogues, you actually have a much wider range of songs that you could actually play.
Oh yeah. Now when we dug into it, I mean, we learned like Sketches of Spain. We learned that instrumental.
Nice.
Because at the time I had like a trumpet. I had Vince Tampio playing trumpet in my band, and he's a great trumpet player.
Yep.
And he did like the arrangement, and I had Dory on trombone. So we actually had this thing where we're like, I already have kind of a horn section that emerges from the band, because Vince would play his banjo and Dory would play accordion, and then all of a sudden they'd put those down and pick up two horns, and I had this horn section kind of emerge, and I used it a lot on especially on Shiver in the Sky, the 2019 record. So yeah, we were doing like, Fiesta, and
I remember seeing you guys do Fiesta.
And we, like it was just, I mean, it was really fun, and but it was a lot of work to get those in. I mean, like anybody can sort of bang out Streams of Whiskey,
yes,
or I don't know, pick. There's a bunch of them.
Is another one that's easy.
It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward.
That's a pretty straightforward one.
But yeah, we worked pretty hard to get some really intricate.
You got to get into the deep tracks, as Adam often talks about.
Yeah,
the deep tracks.
like, because if we said, all right, if we're going to do like a bar show of this, we're going to do 3 hours, and we want to, and every time we do it, we kind of wanted to surprise people with like.
Nice.
Because we did like Streets of Sorrow and Birmingham 6 too, which was a challenge to get that.
I did a thing with it was a mix. So we did 3 shows. I know we definitely did 2. I want to say we did 3, because we played the AOH 61. We played the McSweeney Club in Jenkintown, and then we played a place in New Jersey. And it was basically the shanties and me. This is when I was playing a lot with the shanties. I think a couple of shows we had Bob Hurst play with us. And then we also had some of the guys from the Bare Knuckle Boxers. And I fucking can't remember what we called ourselves. But we did a Pogue show.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it was
fun,
cool.
Man.
But like
it's a bunch of work. Like
we dressed up in the suits and all that.
Yeah.
We had a few rehearsals and whatnot. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun because it's good music.
It really is.
It's fun music.
Yeah. I mean, we were thinking like, all right, maybe we can do this and like take it on the road and go to Boston and or whatever. But it was ultimately, it wasn't what I wanted to do. It was kind of like, all right, it's fun and maybe we can make a couple of bucks, because you're always kind of thinking like, if you're playing your own music, well, it's like, okay, I want to play my own music and I want to do all,
and that's
I want to sell my records, but how am I going to make money?
And that goes back to like me as well. And I think you do the same thing. It's like, yes, we do certain things to to make a few bucks, but ultimately, like, I want to play my songs. You know what I mean? So like,
So we kind of got back to that. We kind of
Yes.
just sort of reverse course a little bit, and like there's still in my repertoire. If you look at my song list, and I'll never be the guy. I can't do the iPad in front of me thing.
Oh,
I'm a either learn the song, I'm nothing like anybody. People who are doing that, like I see that there's guys who come into Kellyanne's and they're brilliant. They're playing all the hits.
Well, that's the thing. That's
like,
where I do the iPad.
But
is all the hits, all my like fucking solo shit.
I just don't care. I just don't care enough to do this.
Which is why I use the iPad.
You know?
I don't care enough about those songs to actually learn them.
Yeah.
That's why I do the iPad.
yeah.
But like if it's a
the
song,
the Pogue
songs. Oh,
got them
fuck
down.
yeah, man,
Like,
you
they're
get 'em
all in my
down.
head.
Yeah, absolutely.
All I have left in my head is like song lyrics and a vague idea where my keys are.
And my
Vague as
Katie told me the other day, she's like, as long as you remember
and they have
Regina's name and her
thing
birthday.
on
Yeah, she's like, as long as you remember Regina's name and her birthday, I don't fucking care what you remember. Because she knows I don't remember shit, and I can't hear for shit either, which actually I'm going to an audiologist on Thursday.
Are you? That's fun.
Yeah.
That's actually really interesting.
I should do
It
that.
is interesting. Yeah,
What?
Exactly.
Going where?
Yeah, well, but here's the funniest thing about that. So, like, it's a free consult. I don't even know if our insurance covers hearing aids or anything like that. Plus, like, I don't know if Katie wants to pay for it because we just got a bill from where I went to the fucking hospital for cutting off my finger, and it's like $770 or some shit like that.
Oh, that's all right, because when I cut my finger at work, $1,200.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But so I don't know, but it's a free consultation at any rate. But it's funny because like when I set it up and all that, then they're like, by the way, you should bring someone with you who you care about because there's going to be a lot of information. That is their nice way of saying, if you think you have hearing problems, you're not going to hear fuck and you're not going to remember a fucking word we say because you're not going to fucking hear it. Yeah. So we need someone there who can actually hear to understand what we're talking about. Yeah, so I'm doing that Thursday, so that should be fucking interesting. As if I'm not old enough. I mean, granted, I am a 47-year-old man with a almost 9-month-old daughter, so I say that makes me feel like I'm in my 20s again.
Yeah.
And mentally, yes, I'm in my 20s again, but I also know that I'm an old fuck. With
your body is just falling apart.
I got to tell you about this too, man. I'm embarrassed. No, I'm not embarrassed.
Did you shit your pants?
No. Well, not recently. There was a time where like I shit my pants constantly before I got like my IBS under somewhat control. But those are stories for another day. Oh God, I fucking hate this story, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. So
hey,
I can't wait for the segue back to Fairy Tale New York.
It's a safe space.
Is it? Is it a safe space on YouTube and Spotify and Castbox and Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio and everywhere else we're heard? Okay, so Adam says this is a safe space, so you guys can't fuck with me out there. Or your ladies either. I say guys as just a generality, but I mean to include everybody.
It's like in Spanish when there's a mixed gender, you use the male.
Yes, which is probably wrong, but that's besides the point. So we went camping last weekend, right? And so we were leaving Thursday. So Wednesday I go running around. Oh no, this wasn't even fucking Wednesday. Oh God, this goes back further. Last Monday is when this actually happened. Fuck, it wasn't even Wednesday. Fuck, I'm actually glad I didn't tell this story last week. I was probably still fucking pissed off about it. So we needed tequila for last week's episode, right? Because one of the booze and vinyl, we needed the Raspada tequila, which is somewhere in our mobile bar over there.
I put it away.
Okay, so me and Regina's my little shopping buddy. I've talked about this. And so we're doing a little bit of running around, and we go into the fucking state store, and I come up with my bottle of tequila, and I make a joke like, okay, kid, you can't drink this all at once. You know what I mean? Like, haha, because fucking dad joke. And the guy goes, oh, look at that. Were you babysitting your granddaughter today?
Oh.
I just fucking look at him. I'm like, no, man, she's all mine. She's all fucking mine, dude. She's not my grandkid. It's my kid. And so I wasn't real happy about that. And so and now I'm going on Thursday to fucking see someone about a fucking hearing aid. So that's my life right now. So so
could be worse. It could be raining.
It's not raining. So, but yes. So that was.
Would you know by your knee?
Yes, no, I know all about my fucking knees. So yeah, so that was like motherfucker, like fucking dude, call me fucking grandpa. That's like, god damn it. I may look like it, but don't, So at any rate, but back to Fairy Tale New York. Do you play Fairy Tale New York?
On occasion. Yeah,
on occasion,
I'll play it. I'll kind of do the. I'll actually do like the Christy Moore version more often.
I've actually, I don't think I've heard of Christy Moore.
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
Okay, and there are a lot of versions.
And he-
even
he-
Bon Jovi just did a version of it like a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, I heard that. It was brutal. And Christy does remove the F word.
Okay.
And he does, and he sort of, he interprets it well. I think Christy Moore was one of the best interpreters of songs around. But yeah, so I'll do that. But I love it. I mean, I think actually if you like that's the fourth song of the album, right? Mm-hmm. Like that whole first side of that record.
Oh, it's amazing.
But it's all character studies.
Yes.
Like, well, Fall from Grace of God isn't quite, but like it's such, like Fairy Tale New York is such a beautiful character study. And I think what draws people into it, because there's very little Christmas about it.
There is.
It's become a Christmas song.
Which is one of the things too. It's like just because they mention Christmas, is it really a Christmas song?
It's like,
it's kind of like a Die Hard at Christmas.
exactly.
movie.
It's like Die Hard. It's like it
which
takes,
which of course it is. But it's like,
I don't disagree that it is. I really don't.
but you know what I feel. Hang on, but what I feel like works about this song and why I think it has such, because it's dark. Like it's dark.
It is dark. Yes.
And I think actually the guy in the story, I think it's told in flashbacks. Mm-hmm. I think the guy in the drunk tank is telling a story. Like, I mean, although there's like it's a duet and there's a narrative going on. The last before they hit the chorus at the end, like the last couple of lines.
We're a drinking podcast. Do you need another one?
I'm good.
The only thing that's left is ahas.
Oh, okay. There you go. So the ahas are sparkling water.
Oh,
if you're not familiar with ahas.
But like, yeah, the last verse is like, you took my dreams from me when I first found you, and then there's that line, I kept them with me, babe, I put them with my own, can't make it all it's redemptive.
Yes,
because the guy in the story is clearly, they're both obviously just troubled people who've not managed, but there's at the end of it all, there's the love is still there.
Yeah, and there is a beauty to that, because sometimes troubled people do end up together, and it's
so beautiful. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean,
yes.
it's kind of like,
Is it Misery Loves Company?
Yes.
Well,
to an
I don't know.
extent,
I mean, I think it's actually the most Christmas thing about that song is that there's hope.
Yeah. Okay.
Like you feel like there's actually hope. It's kind of, when you think about, I listened to a whole podcast series about the Office. And they talked about like how to make The Office work for an American audience. And
Wait! You listen to a podcast that's not
podcast.
the Country Hipster podcast?
Yeah, I mean, you're only doing one a week. Like, I got a lot of time to fill.
We're now 23 episodes deep. Come on, man.
So, but they talked about like giving people like a silver lining at the end, and that American audiences needed it, or that the Ricky Gervais, the original version was almost too dark.
Right.
And I think what Fairy Tale does is it just draws. It just gives you like this glimmer at the end of it, and then you had this very uplifting instrumental at the end, and it's so there's such a like it's I never you listen to it, it's really not a Christmas song.
One of the best versions
it's just, there's, like I said, the redemptive quality and the uplifting instrumental at the end. It's beautiful. I've got like goosebumps thinking about that line, like that.
Yep.
I kept them with me, babe. I put them with my own.
No.
Can't make it all alone. I built my dreams around you. Like it's stunning writing. You know what I mean?
Yep. So two notes on that. Number one of the best versions I ever actually heard of Fairy Tale New York. As far as covers go, because a lot of people have covered this. I've covered it. Obviously, you've covered it. Yeah. Sure, Adam's even covered it to get laid. But.
It works.
It works. There you go. Funny. Okay. Another funny story about that. I'm going to digress. So I was playing. This was like my second or third St. Patrick's Day, It was the end of Irish Terry Conklin and before Birmingham 6. So I'm playing my last thing, and it's basically at that point, Brett and Susie, who were in Irish Terry Conklin. Did you ever know like my story behind Irish Terry Conklin?
No.
So that was my first foray into Irish music, right? Do you know who Irish Terry Conklin is?
No.
There is this bad movie from like either late 90s or early 2000s about boxing, right? And it's called The Great White Hype, and it stars Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, I heard of it. Yeah.
And basically, the reason I named my band Irish Terry Conklin, my last name is Weiss, which is German, which I am, Irish and German. I do have more Irish than German in me. I also have a little Scottish in me, right? So one of the jokes about Irish Terry Conklin, the boxer in it, was, they're like telling the guy, like, we're going to call you Irish Terry Conklin. And the guy's like, I'm not Irish. They're like, don't worry. In boxing, it just means you're white. So I named my band Irish Terry Conklin. So Paul Weiss was playing Irish Terry Conklin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not even all fully Irish. So that's what I think. So that's where Irish Terry Conklin came from. And then, so this was before I started Birmingham 6. This was my first foray into it of like, okay, let me see if this works. I never expected the band to last. I really didn't. But I surrounded myself with 3 amazing musicians. So the last year that we're doing St. Patrick's Day, Brett and Susie had already moved on. They were doing like this, and I knew at one point they were going to leave the band to do this other band that they were doing at the time, which at that time had the possibility they were talking to labels and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, guys, go do your fucking thing. I don't care.
We don't talk about his hot ass drummer.
We don't talk about the hottest drummer. So this show was just me and the hot ass drummer, who we don't talk about for reasons that, she may have gone to jail from being a pedophile. May or may not have, but whatever. So this year I'm playing it, and so 2 of my friends come out, and I've also said this on many occasions that when you're doing these bar shows, you have 3 jobs, and the third job is playing music. The first job is to sell beer. The second one is to get people laid. The third job is to play music. That's what these like solo gigs and these bar gigs are all about. So I have a friend of mine who comes up to me. Him and his wife came to see me, and he's like, dude, could you play Fairy Tale New York? I'm like, dude, I just closed the last set with Fairy Tale New York. He's like, dude, my wife said that if I can get you to play Fairy Tale New York, that she'll fuck me tonight. And I was like, I got you.
Yeah.
And so
you're getting laid, sir.
So he goes and sits down. We play the next song. We do Fairy Tale New York, and everybody's like, "Hey!" And I end it with, "That goes out to everyone who's getting laid tonight." And of course, it embarrassed her, but he still got laid.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And so fuck, where was I going with this? I totally got sidetracked because I started talking about Irish Terry Conklin. What was the last thing I said before I started talking about Irish Terry Conklin?
Something about your hot ass drummer.
No. That was before that. Fuck. All right. At any rate, so this song, I do.
You're talking about the best version you ever heard?
I remember best. Thank you.
Yeah, good call.
One of the best cover version I ever heard of it was actually by. Bon
Jovi.
No, it was Glenn Hansford or Hansard. Thank you, Glenn Hansard and Iron and Wine.
Oh yeah,
and they did.
That is a great. I know
and they
that
did
version,
have
yeah.
a female vocalist who I honestly, unfortunately, do not remember what it was.
Andy, my bandmate, played on that. It was done live.
Yes, it was done live. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Was it the female?
Sure.
Was
I think he played on it. I know he was. It was because it was Iron and Wine and like Calexico.
I think so. Yes, and absolutely.
Andy was sitting in with Calexico at the time.
Are you serious? Oh
I'm
man,
pretty sure. Yeah, they did it. I think it was like a show. It was like a show in New York that like Iron and Wine were kind of like hosting.
Yeah.
But Glenn Hansard was part of it because I know Andy got to meet Glenn Hansard, and I think he was on stage.
For that is great. But I mean, I saw it on YouTube. And I'm
great,
like, this is a fucking amazing.
Yeah, check it out. You might see Andy playing.
Oh, dude,
guitar or banjo or pedal steel or something.
Yes, that is one of my favorite versions of the song.
That's good. They're quality.
Yeah.
Most versions I've heard are total shit.
Oh yeah, and even
Absolute
like
shite.
even to the point where so they when it comes to after like the second chorus, they're like la 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 la. Like I actually incorporated that to when I started playing. When I play it solo, which is not part of the song. It's just it kind of just goes right into it. But I actually incorporated it. But also another song that originated from, it became a very beautiful and very standard Christmas song, but really it didn't originate as a Christmas song. It originated as part of a Broadway show, and that is Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, which was actually written, I believe it was Irving Berlin. It was written by Irving Berlin for the musical Meet Me in St. Louis, which is not a Christmas musical. They just happen to have a scene that happens at Christmas. Right. You know what I mean? So but it has become a long-standing and endearing
kind of hard
Christmas
to say
song.
that Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas isn't a Christmas song.
Well, I know, but ultimately the purpose was
Right.
not. It was basically like the whole point of that song in that. And when you look at Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas and where it stands in the play and ultimately the movie, Judy Garland does a beautiful version singing of it. But where that stands is actually not about Christmas. It's about the fact that they're actually getting ready to leave St. Louis and move to New York so their dad could take their new job. And it's basically Judy Garland saying to I believe it's Trudy is the younger sister she's talking to. It's like don't worry, things will be fine. Just have yourself a merry little Christmas because this is Christmas time.
Right.
Which in a way it's not a Christmas song, but it's absolutely a Christmas song. Right. Do you know what I mean? Like it's in the setting of Christmas, but it's not necessarily meant, because when you think of
It's like Die Hard.
Yes, you're right, exactly. When you think of a Christmas song, and we will get into this, which we will be having a Christmas episode at some point. We got to set up that recording. But when you think of like a Christmas song, like Holly Jolly Christmas and shit like that, and Jingle Bells and stuff like that, those are undeniable Christmas songs. Fairy Tale New York is not an undeniable Christmas song. Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is not an undeniable Christmas song. When you look at the circumstances of what it was actually written for and how it was used.
No.
So I get that though. But again, back to what you were saying, the guy kind of bringing it all together. I kept them with me, babe. You know what I mean?
That's kind of why I think it's almost like, because remember the video? I know the video was like directed by Matt Dillon, I think, and I think he was in it. I think he played a cop in it.
He was, yes.
Yeah. But it was, I mean, it's just a beautifully executed song too, and apparently they tried recording it like many times. They recorded it with Koch O'Riordan, and then Koch left the band. And they were considering, I think, like Chrissy Hind, and Susie Quattro, and a few other sort of big name
I could see
female
Chrissy
singers
Hind
at the
on
time.
that. Yeah.
But Kirsty MacColl was married to Steve Lillywhite.
Christy McCall.
I know,
Let's raise it,
Jesus.
Christy McCall. I was waiting for it. I was going to do it on my own, but I was waiting for you to say it.
But she was married, and apparently he coached her. He took her home for like a day. And Shane McGowan, when he heard Kirsty MacColl's vocals,
I know exactly what Paul's going to say.
insisted on
We need to find justice for Christy McCall.
Yeah.
That shit was bullshit. Yeah. Look it up. Christy McCall was murdered. It wasn't an accident. Anyway, go on.
Well, I mean, even if it was an accident,
someone needs to pay for
negligent.
it. Yes.
Yeah. Apparently Shane McGowan re-recorded his vocal after he heard Kirsty MacColl singing.
Nice.
And but it's like I said, if I'm listening to the record and you say I'm going to skip over one song, it might be that one, but then you stop and listen to it and go like, what a piece of writing,
Yes.
There was apparently done a bet. It was like Elvis Costello like challenged them to like write a Christmas song.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was Shane McGowan and Jem Finer, I think, wrote the song.
Nice.
And
so
that was part of a kind of a bet to write a Christmas song, or a challenge, like a writing challenge.
So here's what I will say as far as the problematic part of it, the problematic term that is used in it, is that I think that music is written at that time. It was definitely meant as a derogatory thing, but I don't think.
No, yeah.
I don't think it was a malicious derogatory, whereas now it would be taken as malicious. I think it was more of a, it would be the same as like, like calling you an idiot. You know what I mean? Which isn't necessarily looked at as a bad thing. But times change, things change. I also have a child who identifies as not only as transgendered, but as queer as well. And so I think for me personally, I need to find if I'm going to play that song, I need to find a less problematic term to use.
I agree. I don't use the word anymore, and I don't think it's central to the song. Yeah. You know what I mean? I would just sing "You're cheap and you're ragged." That's usually what I'll sing. Because it's not necessary. You know what I mean?
I've been toying with jagoff. You're a jagoff. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the you're an asshole. You're an idiot.
I kind of feel like people who are determined to still sing it with that term. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's I don't know. Like I mean, I don't think it's not central to the song. It's not necessary.
It's not essential. It's
not essential. And it's like. If it's hurting anybody, like why the fuck?
Why do it? Exactly.
It's not needed.
To touch on what you said about how it's not meant maliciously, it's almost as if just calling somebody an idiot.
It doesn't mean and real quick, I said it's not meant maliciously. It doesn't mean that it's not felt maliciously.
Yeah.
Just because it's not meant maliciously does not.
Yeah.
Even though the intent. Does not.
That's a really good point.
Also does not take off how it's being felt. Yeah. So that's a different thing.
No, that's a great point.
Also very problematic. Louis C.K., the comedian Louis C.K. has a bit where he talks about the word in question and how
South Park did a whole episode on it too.
When they were kids, they never used it to describe somebody who was homosexual.
So here's the thing though. And I grew up pretty much. I think Louis C.K. and myself are probably not much different in age, and so I grew up in that time. I grew up in that, and to an extent, I see what Louis C.K. is saying, except that where did the word come from, and where would
it's a pile of sticks.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, but that's not where it came from. Yeah. From me. Do you know what I mean? And I know that. Right. And I knew that then. Even though I might say it to someone at that time, like, whatever, not meaning to hurt them.
Yeah.
Not meaning it necessarily in any other derogatory way.
You don't mean
other
it
than
in a
idiot.
sexual way. Like
exactly.
It's the...
However, still in my mind.
How old are you?
47.
So Louis C.K. has almost a decade on you.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that Louis C.K. is like well in his 50s.
It's not, it's not that far. Not far that far of a difference. So especially in 1980s in Northeast Philadelphia, where the N word was still accepted widely. And anybody who wants to deny that, there's a reason why they call it the lily white Northeast, because they didn't want black people in the Northeast, plain and simple. But not that I didn't. I'm just saying that's the story behind it. But that's the thing. There is, even though I might not have necessarily meant it towards, someone's sexual orientation. I wasn't thinking of that as a kid who heard this stuff and just like, oh, well, this is just what you say.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that my derivative wasn't from that. It wasn't from a bag of sticks. It wasn't from a smoke. Do you know what I mean? Because what is it in Ireland? They say it all the time. Exactly. And it's not meant as anything other than
which
a
is
smoke.
a stick that you light.
Right. which was not how it was ever presented to me. Yet,
no.
You know what I mean? So I think at some point,
I think also like there's there's all the people who are sort of jumping on like the anti-PC wagon, like vehemently, defending their right to say whatever they want. And honestly, I think those people are fucking idiots.
Yes, I do
for the most part, because it's like, why? What are you really standing up for?
Exactly.
You're not standing for anything at all, except some version of the world that you are you feel was better and
just because everything was a certain way for a certain time doesn't mean that it was right. So funny story about that. Funny fucking story as a segue. So one of the things that has always been an indicator in selling records, and when you see an increased bunch of sales in something, you're like, oh fuck, one of those things has always been death.
Yeah.
Right. So when someone dies, and I know this when I worked at Soundstage Direct, I've known it from Ottsville Record Garage, and you know,
I say there's
whatnot.
artists who didn't become famous until post-mortem.
Right. So funny thing is,
they have an Oscar.
Yeah, yes. So I had, and I say had because I had about 6 copies, I had 4 left. 4 copies of Alice Cooper, The Eyes of Alice Cooper on CD that I've had listed on Ottsville Record Garage for a long time now, right? Listed on the Discogs page, listed on the website page. And every now and then I would sell one, like, you know, no big deal, like whatever. So I noticed in the last couple days, I sold out of all of my copies of that CD.
Oh shit, is Alice all right?
Well, so that's the thing. I'm like, oh fuck, what happened to Alice Cooper? So I looked up Alice Cooper. I just put Alice Cooper in Google and hit enter. So Alice Cooper is alive and well. But not only does Death and Taylor Swift sell records now, so does cancel culture. Because apparently Alice Cooper came out and made some anti-trans statements in the last couple days. So now everybody's buying these fucking Alice Cooper CDs from me because he's in the news.
My daughter is a fan of country music and is a fan of Morgan Wallen. Morgan Wallen's album, post him saying the N-word,
jumped up. Oh,
Yeah,
I know
through
that.
the
I know
roof.
that.
Yeah.
I absolutely know that. And it's just, it's kind of ridiculous. But yes, so not only now,
It's just the whole like anti-woke thing. Is like.
Now, not only do I need
don't get
Paul McCartney and Eddie Vedder to die in a car crash together to become a millionaire, I also need them to say something really stupid before they do it.
it's like
Right as they're going
off the cliff.
There are only 2 sexes. What?
Exactly. Dude, I will blow up. The record industry
Paul
would
there
blow
are
the fuck up.
There are only 2 sexes, lads. What was that, Paul?
Oh, damn, now he's dead.
I just imagine the headline, like the news headline, is like, in a strange turn of events, Eddie Vedder and Paul McCartney were driving at the Grand Canyon today, and apparently,
you know what? If you
things.
really want to throw things over the top, just fucking put Ringo Starr in the back of the car with him, and we'll be good. You know what I mean? It's like, but like that was, and you say that like, oh my god, I hope Alice is okay. No, that was seriously
the thing, but now it's not. Yeah.
I remember there was, I can't remember the name of the band. I honestly can't because there were a punk band who I knew I heard of.
Hoobastank?
No, they weren't a punk band. Ubastank is actually the proper way to pronounce it, but not Uba. But at any rate, I remember this when I was working at Soundstage Direct. I walked in on the one morning, and basically what we do on Monday morning is you would just like kind of import all the sales from the website to our back office stuff, so I knew right away what to order. And there's like from the one distributor, there's fucking all these like orders for this one record. Not that it was that much, but for that band who I'd never heard of from this distributor, which was a smaller distributor, to have like 15 orders between Saturday morning and Monday morning was a lot. So I remember contacting a rep. I'm like, who the fuck is, and I don't remember the name of the band. And they're like, oh yeah, their singer died over the weekend. I was like, oh, okay, there you go. But I remember when, who's the Beastie Boy that's dead? Is that Mike D?
I always forget. I've probably asked my girlfriend this like 6 times in the past
Hold
month.
on, because I don't want to. What? Adam Nathan Yankic. Yes. So let's hear it from him. Come on, let's hear it from him. Okay. So when he died, that was like midday.
Yeah, one of those
The Ahas
seltzers.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So that was midday when he had died, or the news came out that he died, and I just remember like seeing order after order after order after order of all the Beastie Boys stuff. So we basically just discoed it on the site because we're like, well, we can't keep up with this amount of stuff, so we just kind of just knocked it out of stock, and then saw what we could get. But same thing happened when Prince died, and you know what I mean. So
I remember right after. I found my neighbor 2 doors down from me at my old house. was throwing away a bunch of records, and
I love that day.
And
That was an amazing day.
And I was going through them. I was looking. It was maybe 2 weeks after Bowie died, and there was like 7 or 8 Bowie albums.
Yeah,
in that lot.
And
yeah.
I sold all those Bowie albums very fast.
Though.
It is rare to get Bowie stuff. I have a couple.
It's rare. It's rare.
It's
rare. I think because of like the internet, it's rare to find like like those kind of when you go to like the flea markets. It's
here's what I say when and this is just excuse me, because I do like to give my general advice out to vinyl buyers because sometimes I think you get a little ridiculous. Here's the thing to keep in mind: when someone really famous or really popular dies, same thing happened after Tom Petty, happened after Prince, happened after the Beastie Boys. Take a breath. Happened after George Michael as well. Take a breath. Take a step back. Wait, because those people are going to die, and then the record labels are going to re-release all of their shit, either in a box set or individually or whatever. So take a breath. Don't jump onto the secondary market and just buy a fucking George Michael with Aretha Franklin 45 for $20 because the day before I had it listed at $1.99, and then I happened to check my phone that George Michael died, and I'm like, well, fuck this, and it was $1, and I upped it up to $19.99, and I sold it in 5 minutes after upping it to $19.99. Yeah. So I am a dick for doing that, yes, but it's also capitalism. So take a breath, take a step back, just wait. The popular stuff will be re-released after that artist dies, because ultimately his or her family wants to make the money, and the record label wants to make the money, because ultimately they can't make any more money off of a dead person. Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? So take a breath. Pogues, have you ever seen them live?
No. I saw Shane MacGowan.
I'm sure you have.
I've seen the I've never seen the original lineup live.
Well, yeah. I mean, because you go back to the original lineup, you're taking out Phil Chevron and.
Well, I mean, I've never seen it, but even like up until like their of the 5 original Pogues records. Mm-hmm. So I've seen the Pogues live without Shane MacGowan. Okay. And like after I saw the Waiting for Herb tour.
I saw that tour as well. Where did you see it?
Trocadero.
Fucking Trocadero, March 1994.
Yeah.
So wait.
I hung out with them afterwards at Fergie's.
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah. I have a Fergie's. I have a Fergie's menu signed by all of them.
Oh, that's fucking amazing.
I have a picture of it on my phone. My brother has it.
You're a little bit older than me, right? Yeah. Not by much though.
Yeah, I'm like 4 years older than you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I was under 18 at the time. I wasn't even 21. Oh, wow. And that was the first time at the Troc, which if anybody who's out there has ever gotten to see a show at the Trocadero Theater, Trocadero, let's give it up to Trocadero. Now, in many cases, the Trocadero sound was pretty fucking horrible. Mm-hmm. However, it was one of the most amazing fucking places to see a show. Yeah. So
you only realize the sound was horrible. I actually saw the same band like twice. Once at the Troc, and then like about 2 nights later up in New York. And I'm like, oh shit, this is what they sound like. The Troc really does suck.
So that show in March of '94 at the Trocadero without Shane MacGowan was the first time I saw the Pogues, and I had to sit in the balcony. So what the Trocadero used to do is that downstairs was all ages all the time. Upstairs was the bar, and that was the over 21 people. But because it was like right before St. Patrick's Day and all that, they flipped it around. So like all the underage kids, you go to fuck upstairs.
Oh, really? That's what happened?
Everybody under 21, you go downstairs. So you got to fucking hang out with them. I was
definitely 21. Yeah, met them at Fergie's. Got to hang out. Like I was ordering a pint of Guinness at the bar at Fergie's, and someone next to me goes like, "How's the pint here?" I turn around, it was Spider Stacy.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. It's amazing. Because it's not a big place. It maybe fits 300 people.
The Troc?
Yeah.
No, I think...
Not even that many, you think?
No, I feel like more. Like standing. Yeah? Standing, I'd say 800 to 1,000 maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's as big as the TLA, right? I mean, but TLA
Okay,
size.
it is a little bigger than TLA. Okay, yeah okay.
Maybe it's about the same, but the TLA I think held 1,000 or
Okay.
1,200.
All right.
Like standing, you know.
Fucking amazing. It was great seeing
a
him,
great
even
show.
though, and that was my whole thing.
And I liked Waiting for Herb. Like I mean I know people like sort of dismiss everything that happened after Hell's Ditch, but I thought Waiting for Herb was a pretty solid record.
Well, if I remember correctly, they played some stuff off of Waiting for Herb and Pogue Mahomes, but they still played all this fucking classic. The classic. They didn't play Fairy
They played
Tale,
some.
but they played the
They
fucking
played
classic
some, but
shit.
I think they went pretty heavy on their post Shane material, but I think also like I mean like on the later records, like Shane's songwriting input was drastically going down.
Yes.
I mean even on so I mean going back to Fall from Grace with God, you know, like Thousands Are Sailing, that was
Chevron,
Chevron, and,
which they played that night.
you know,
Because I was
they
super
definitely
excited
played
about that.
Yeah. You know, but and then on Peace and Love and Hell's Ditch, I mean the other songwriters were definitely stepping up.
Hell's Ditch, I know that Shane wrote the least amount of.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, 'cause he was messed
fucking,
up at the
yeah,
time,
he was
you know,
messed up. Yeah,
but and then I saw Shane MacGowan with the Popes at least 4 times.
Oh wow!
maybe.
See, I've never seen it with the Popes. I remember there's the one infamous show where he was scheduled to play at the TLA, and he disappeared.
I was at that show.
You're at that show, and then apparently,
in fact, I know I was at the time he's passed away. Jonathan, he was a bartender at the TLA. He was like the bar manager.
Uh-huh.
He told me the story because they couldn't find him.
right?
So we're there forever, just waiting around, which wasn't unusual with a
Yes,
Pogues
yes,
show, or
yes.
you know, just sort of fucking waiting. Eventually, the band comes out, and the guy, who's the musical director of the Popes, the head guy of the Popes, kind of grabs the mic and he goes, guys, I'm really sorry, we don't know where he is. Look, you can all get your money back. We'll play you a few songs, you know, and so they start just playing some like instrumentals. People are fucking pissed off. Next thing, all the plastic cups are which was so wrong.
Yes,
because these guys are
they're just trying to help you out.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, my friend Roseanne was with me. She's like first one. She's graceful, beautiful, tall girl. And she like leaps back to the box office. She's back like 2 minutes later with all her. She grabs all her tickets, runs. She's back with all her money. Next thing, MacGowan appears up on stage, and I think even the police had come in. I think some cops had come in.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Because I remember it's MacGowan coming on stage and going, like, "Who's all the fucking filth doing here?" But like my buddy Jonathan told me, he says, "Yeah," he goes, "I'm like backstage." Next thing, like this car pulls up. MacGowan like fucking calms out of the car. His manager grabs him, and goes, "Where the fuck were you?" And he grabs him, drags him back, and MacGowan goes, "I have to piss." And he goes, and he grabs a beer off somebody, throws the beer out, goes, "Piss into this." He said he put a foot-long line of Coke in front of him. So he's doing the line of Coke while peeing into a pint glass. He gets pushed out on stage.
Oh man!
And it was a really good show.
That's what I heard. So I want to say that, and again I mentioned earlier, Fran O'Connor and Billy Donahue, who were in the Boys of County Hell. Fran O'Connor is down to Bogside Rose with Bob Hurst, who's a friend of the podcast, and Billy Donahue from the Shanties. And I believe they
Up the
stayed.
dubs, Billy. Up the dubs.
Up the dubs. And I believe they stayed for the whole time and actually got to see Shane with the Popes, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I stayed too. I stayed for the whole. Yeah, I was still there because it wasn't long after they announced that the show was cancelled, and so the Popes are up there playing. My friend Roseanne gets all our money back, so we've already gotten our money back.
Yeah. But you didn't leave.
And then it was like within 5 minutes, MacGowan is on stage.
That's
you know?
awesome.
So we kind of like getting a free show. You know?
Yes.
Great. Or obviously we had cash. I'm like, to the bar, my friends, to the bar.
So I saw them in '94 at the Trocadero, which is pretty. You saw them in Dublin? Oh, the Popes.
I saw the Popes. So MacGowan with the Popes in Dublin. Yeah.
And then I actually saw them on the first full reunion tour in 2006 with Shane.
I didn't go to any of the reunion tour shows.
What's
I
that?
I don't know why I didn't go into any. There was something about it that I just kind of.
I had to see them with Shane.
Yeah,
That's how I looked at it.
yeah.
And I was at Atlantic City at the Borgata. And one of the cool things about that was the opening man was the Saw Doctors. So I had played that afternoon, fucking packed out, fucking booked it down to fucking Atlantic City. And here's kind of the cool thing about it was because of that show, going to that show in Atlantic City to see the Pogues and the Saw Doctors, I actually discovered the Tossers. because there was someone who was on the street team for Victory Records who, as people were coming out of the Brigada when the show was over, was handing out like these 3-song CDs for the Tossers.
Oh, wow. Smart.
And it was for their album. I can't remember what the name of the album was, but it has like the Good Morning Dad and No Loot, No Booze, No Fun on it. They're hanging out these CDs, and that's where I discovered the Tossers, was because of the Pogues and the Saw Doctor. So that was pretty fucking cool, and it was cool seeing Shane with them. Like I'm not gonna lie. Now because of that, I know they've done.
We did a couple of shows like in a wheelchair and everything.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't care about any of those. Yeah. Number one, the price was too high. Number two, you know what? I was like, I saw them. I saw them without Shane. Saw them with Shane. I don't need to see the Pogues.
I'm a little regretful. I think it was kind of like the purist in me kind of went like, nah, like.
Well, see,
it's like this is like it was a cash grab, but I get it.
I get that.
Now I understand it more because, like, as a musician, I understand that we're not getting
in the Valley of Shadow Dust. That's the one. Yep.
We're not selling like all these bands that used to make enough money from their greatest hits album sales to maintain whatever lifestyle they had.
But that was the thing.
That's all gone, and so they're back out on the road.
So for me, and especially in retrospect, it actually was the purest form of the Pogues that I knew, because even though like even when you look at the albums I liked, right, like the 3 I listed, Hell's Ditch was my introduction. I eventually turned Rum Sodomy into my second, but if I Should Fall from Grace of God is my number 1. So 2 out of the 3 top albums for me personally from the Pogues has that lineup,
right,
of Shame and Phil and Spider and all that. It doesn't include Kate, even though she's touring now with Spider with the Poetry in Motion.
She's also just joined another band that are playing at Johnny Brenda's.
Yes, it's actually a band she was already in.
Okay.
So I was do you want to go to that show?
I am out of town that night. I remember looking at the date, going like, "Oh damn, I can't." I'm like,
"Damn it!" So they're coming. They're like, I forget what the fuck they're called. Hold on, let me look it up.
They're like an older band.
They're like an older band. They're like a 70s post-punk early new wave band, and she's playing in it. And originally, me and Katie were going to get tickets, but then we weren't going to. Man, I really still want to go to.
I remember like looking at the date going.
Here's the coolest thing about Katie Reardon, and I'm not telling everybody you should go look her up on Facebook, but like if you message her, she'll message you back, and it's really fucking cool. Yeah. It really is cool.
No, it is, and she's very active online.
Yes,
and she gets.
Yes, she is, and like I've unfortunately I've never been able to see any of the Poetry in Motion tours that they've done, because they've done a few of them with Kate and Spider. And then whatever.
I saw their free at noon. They did a free because we were playing at World Cafe that night.
Nice.
And it was right before COVID. Because I remember everyone who was at the free at noon got like an email saying like that somebody at World Cafe had tested positive for COVID. And we were all kind of like, ooh, somebody near us had the plague. And this was like, and 2 weeks later the world shut down. But we were all like, ooh.
But yes. So I kind of want to go to that show. Like. My wife's well behind on these episodes, but by the time she reaches this, it's probably already passed. So like, I need to go to that show. I need to go to that show. I need to spend that money.
Johnny Brenda's is a great place to see music. Too,
I consider Johnny Brenda's the mini truck.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know what I mean? I've only seen one show there. That was Tim Barry. The first time I saw Tim Barry was at Johnny Brenda's, and it was fucking phenomenal. The sound is phenomenal. The place is great, and you know what I mean. So great. So I think I'm gonna need to make. You're gonna be out of town.
I am. I forget the date.
God damn it.
And,
You're about as helpful to me as I am to Star Wars movies with you. Did you ever hear that story?
No.
How I spoiled. Well, okay. So I will say this: I did not spoil The Force Awakens for you. Frank Daly spoiled The Force Awakens for you.
How do you?
All right, so the story goes. So this was
so I have to give you a prelude. I don't care that much about Star Wars.
You did at that time, though.
I definitely went and gave you like a super hard time.
Dude,
it was like my in to give Paul.
Let me tell you something. You gave me a super hard time, but I received multiple messages from multiple people about why would you do that. Like seriously. So that's like
That
even
just makes it
that's
better.
Like, it does. But I received, and not from like.
Did I post about? Did I post
Yeah,
about it?
you did. You fucking did. And then like I received multiple messages like, why would you fucking ruin that for him? What the fuck was that?
Great.
So listen, if you have not seen The Force Awakens at this point, fuck you. You really should have seen it at this point.
It's been out for...
Yeah, it's been out for too long.
Like, spoiler alert on a movie that's
Yes.
over 10 years old.
Yes.
So,
So like all right. So here's what happened. It was Christmas, and I was honestly.
It was Christmas Eve, baby.
No, it wasn't. It was like 2 days before Christmas though. It was actually one of like the
in a brow pub.
if I think about this night, right? Like I honestly look back on this night very favorably, even though it was with my former landlord was there. You were there. Frank Daly from Jameson Celtic Rock, who's a friend of the podcast, was there, and his wife at the time, Shannon, was also there. And we were there, and we were sitting at Frankfurt Hall in Fishtown, right? John lived in Fishtown. I lived in Fishtown. This is the one time I let him cross Oxford Street, which is pretty ridiculous because for Oxford Street is a very tiny street between Marlborough and Belgrade. Not Belgrade. Is it Belgrade? What street do you live on?
I'm on Columbia.
You're on Columbia. Yes. So Oxford Street is a very small street between Marlborough and Columbia, right? John, as he mentioned earlier, actually at dinner, he didn't mention it on the podcast, has lived in Fishtown since 2004, 2005, right? I moved in there in 2011, 2012. 2011. It's definitely 2011, right? So at that point, when I realized that John, which that's another story, I actually saw you guys practicing in your house about 6 months before I knew who you were, before we had actually met.
Okay.
Yeah, and I actually almost knocked on your door, but like, yo, you guys are pretty good. My name's Paul. I live around the corner. But I didn't. But I remember I was walking around. I was going to like the fucking like what was the fucking pizza place?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Central.
I was going to Central Pizza to pick up something. I heard you guys practicing. And I almost knocked on your door like, yo, who the fuck are you guys? I play Irish music. But I didn't do that. So at any rate, there's this little street, and I used to tell John that he's not allowed to pass Oxford Street because I'm the fattest hipster in Fishtown, and that is the rules. You can't pass fucking Oxford. Everything from Oxford Street on is mine. Everything from Oxford Street that way is yours. No big deal. Yeah. So we went to Frankfurt Hall. It was me, John, Frank, and Shannon.
I think you guys were there. I think somebody sent me a text. One of you, either yourself or Frank or
something like that. Yeah,
sent me
yeah,
a text.
yeah.
And I'm like, hey, we're hanging out. What are you doing? Nothing.
And my old landlord, and we're sitting there, and we're talking, and my landlord had surprised me with opening night tickets to The Force Awakens. Like they were doing that whole like 10 p.m. viewing the day before it opens. Yeah, so she bought me tickets for it, which I was very grateful for. She did have her good points, and that was one of them. Not many more, but and so we went and we sat there and we're talking, and The Force Awakens comes up and and Frank goes, "Yeah, man, I can't believe they killed Han Solo." And I look at Frank, I'm like, dude, he hasn't seen it. Why the fuck would you say that? And then Frank goes, yeah, I haven't seen it either. I'm like, fuck you. So indirectly, I ruined The Force Awakens for John because someone else who was just being an asshole as like, oh yeah, they killed Han Solo. He didn't even fucking see the movie. Fucking ruined it. And John's like, fuck, really? I fucking wanted to see that. God damn it. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. But seriously, you posted about it the next day, and I got like fucking messages from tons of people like, why would you do that? That's how it went down. Don't gaslight me. That's how it went down.
I think it's a little revisionist history. Is this a revisionist history podcast?
I did not
now?
know, dude. That's how it went down.
It's a drinking podcast, a music podcast, and revisionist history.
Oh, man. No, man. What is your version of it?
I don't know. You just blabbed it.
I did not just blab it, man. I would not have just blabbed that, man, because it was amazing. Like, I remember that happened. I got all teary-eyed. I'm like, oh, my God. They killed Han Solo. Jesus Christ. So, but at any rate, so Adam, we know that you love the album, right? Is that the overall? I mean, this has been I am very sorry. This is almost like the High Fidelity episode where like me and John are talking and like you
No, because like I'm the type of person where if I don't know something, I'm gonna find someone who does know it, and I'm gonna steal their secrets.
And this guy fucking knows a ton, right?
And I'm on board with listening to just stories of shit that I don't know. So I'm yes, it's like the High Fidelity podcast where I haven't said a lot, but
Jack, just so you know, Jack Black was in High Fidelity.
Jack Black was in High Fidelity.
Yes.
Don't forget that.
Jack Black was in High Fidelity.
But it's been enjoyable. It's also like not just.
I kind of feel like we didn't talk about the album enough.
Not just in your guys' exchanges, but like anytime when Frank and Bob and Nick have been on the podcast, it's just interesting to hear stories about shit that's happened in your past that like I don't know. And it just kind of adds to the thing. So it's enjoyable.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we know you love the podcast.
Love it. The podcast,
not the podcast. The album. We love the album.
I'm still on the fence.
You're still on the fence about the podcast. Yeah. John, how do you feel about the podcast and the album?
I've thoroughly enjoyed being on the podcast.
Yes.
I love the album. Like I said, I mean, it's an album that 35 years after it's been released.
It's
like
timeless.
and I
it
still
is definitely one of those timeless albums.
I still listen to and just go like, and I still get the same feeling. Like there's I'm like I just have the track listing open here in front of me, and I'm going like the songs like we haven't spoken of, like the Broad Majestic Shannon, like an incredible love song, a beautiful. Thousands Are Sailing, like it's one of my favorite songs to play, and again, incredibly intricate. Like that song, when you get to that instrumental, where it just takes so many turns, you know.
So that like all right, this made me
and again, like looking at the whole like side one of that album, like it's another amazing character study of like an immigrant. And then the ghost of an immigrant from 150 years previous, and sort of comparing the Irish who were coming to America because of the, like I mentioned earlier, like the 25-30% unemployment in the 80s and in Ireland, and the people who came over desperate and starving in the 1840s, like it's like and tying those two worlds together in, like I mean it was amazing what he did in what they could do as writers in those 4 minutes. The characters that, like the character that Shane MacGowan creates in Bottle of Smoke is so crystal clear, and it's so well presented, it's so well recorded. The musicianship was amazing. They didn't leave anything, like they looked at every corner of each song and went like, how can this be better? Like and then you've got Steve Lillywhite making every instrument sound crystal clear. Like it's still like it sounds like it's so timeless. It doesn't sound like an 80s record. It doesn't sound like anything that probably came out on a mainstream record label at that time. You know, like it really does just stand. Like I said, I go back and forth about whether this or Rum Sodomy are my favorite. Whether this or Rum Sodomy are my favorite Pogues records. But it's, I'm like looking at the track listing, like it's incredible. Like it's all.
So let me ask you this. So obviously, if no one's noticed, John has a bit of an accent. As far as Dubliners go, you don't say. As far as Dubliners go, and Irish people in general, and I only want to say this because I'm assuming you have been in this country for a long time, specifically in Philadelphia. So I can overall understand people with Irish accents, but if they've been not in this country for very long, I have a little bit of trouble, specifically Belfast and Dublin, more so Belfast than Dublin, of understanding.
I feel like the Dublin accent is a little easier.
It is a little easier.
It's kind of flat.
But still, if you have someone who is just from Dublin coming over here, because ultimately the Irish talk fast, which is a beautiful thing. I do have trouble understanding them. It takes me a little while to adjust. I've never had that issue. So, and it goes back to Thousands Are Sailing. When did you come to America to live?
When I came to stay was like the mid-90s.
The mid-90s. Yeah. Okay. So with that in mind, and what we were talking about with the employment issues in Dublin and whatnot, so you've been here for 30 some odd years. Almost living in
almost
America.
30, yeah.
Okay.
Jesus, that's fucking crazy.
I know, right? It is. So how does a song like Thousands Are Sailing how does that hit you? Because I know how it hits me, but how does that hit you?
Oh, because you wear that, you know, like you wear that person. Like I mean, like there's.
Because
I didn't come here out of desperation.
Right.
There was no. I mean, it was a little bit of like I need to get the fuck out of here. You know.
Sometimes
it was
yes.
part of it was like, you know, I was making. I think I'd graduated from college in Ireland. I was making hardly any money. I was not making nearly enough money to like move out of my parents' house. I'd done a couple of summers in America. In my head, I was like,
Actually,
I can scoot over.
running
there again.
rides in Wildwood. This guy ran
Right.
fucking rides.
Right. You rode a go-kart track in the mid-90s and were kicked off, probably by me. But no, like I've always struggled with it. You know, I still struggle with it. You know, like
Right.
there's still big parts of me that every time I go do an Ireland tour with the band, I come back here and kind of go,
Oh, fuck me.
you really didn't do that well.
No.
First beer,
No.
give him something to poke that with.
Help me out, man. Help me out. What the fuck?
But it's an incredible song. It's an incredibly well written song.
Yes.
When you sit down and play, have you played Thousands Are Sailing?
I have. And Birmingham
It's got
6.
it's got a lot going on in
Yes,
there. You know, like
it does. Birmingham 6 has not done it enough. We did practice it a few times. Never really. So
If you
Birmingham
get
6.
that instrumental, like that's
It's amazing.
It's great.
Well, we have Joe. We have Joe Arnold who can pull off that
Yeah,
instrumental
yeah.
perfectly. The problem is not the instrumental. The problem is everything else that goes, the backing of the instrumental. So Birmingham 6, our general theme at this point is You know what I mean? So, you know, that's one of those songs that we did and we haven't practiced since pre-pandemic.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
But even like, you know, I mean, even
it's-
getting away from that, like,
yes.
I mean, you can sit back and like look at, again, just like that's what I was thinking of, like with side one of this record is just amazing characters.
Yes.
Like you, at the end of those 4 minutes or however long the song is, like you know those characters, like you know those two characters in Fairy Tale New York,
Like
you know, so well, and you know the guy who's like. Who claims he's won a bunch of money and
Yes.
claims he's never going to gamble again.
Yeah,
of course
but
he's going
of
to
course he's
gamble
gonna
again. You know?
fucking gamble
But like,
again,
you know
yes.
what I mean? Like, there's no doubt, and it's amazing.
So like I always feel and I try, and maybe this is because of my acting background, when I wanted to be an actor, and I was a theater major in college. Like I always kind of look at myself as a bit of an empath. Like I always look at things like, okay, how would this person feel about this situation or these types of things, and it is kind of like, kind of how I've lived my life, and definitely that song Thousands Are Sailing is one of those things where like I look at that and like, I'm not an immigrant, I don't fucking know, you know what I mean? Like yes, okay, so part of my family came from Germany, part of my family came from Scotland. I don't even know the part of my family that came from Germany. I know the part that came from Scotland, but ultimately, like, I don't know that. I don't know what that was like. You know what I mean? Like my one great aunt went through Ellis Island, but doesn't remember it because she was a fucking baby.
Right, but you know what? You listen to a line that goes like, "When I got back to my empty room, I suppose I must have
Exactly.
cried." And
Exactly.
you can put yourself there.
Exactly.
You know,
You
like
can.
whether you're an immigrant or no matter what, like every one of us has like been through a phase in our life where we just went like, we sat back and we're all of a sudden we're lost.
Yes.
You know, like every
Yes.
one of us has been lost, and that's what the song does. Like the song like takes a lost soul and gives that lost soul a voice.
And you look at
and it's amazing,
Not to like fucking diminish it, but like you look at the animated film, fucking what's that fucking mouse fucking film?
Five-O Goes West.
Before Five Goes West.
Ratatouille.
No, not that fucking one. The fucking before. It's Five-O, but what's it called?
Rescuers Down Under.
No, it's fuck. At any rate, they do the
Watership
song
Down.
about there's no cats in America. You know what I mean? And the streets are paved with cheese and shit like that. And that's almost like what fucking what the fuck is the name of that song? I have it on VHS upstairs. But anyway, that is what that song is. It's like, dude, you had this idea of this is what America is. This is what you're coming to, and you're coming to this great shit. And then you get there, and the streets aren't paved with gold, and you can't find a fucking job, and you're fucking, looked at as you're Irish, so go fuck off because there's a million of you. No Irish need apply, which we've gotten into before. We've talked about before. No, Irish need apply. And that's that song, and it's even in the modern sense because it doesn't
even get into that. I mean, but it just gets into the desperation, the loneliness, the longing.
Speak to desperation. One of my favorite lines in that song is, "Were your dollars from the White House? Were they from the Five and Dime?"
Yeah.
Like it's
An American Tale. That's the fucking movie. An American fucking Tale.
But that whole song is, and we'll talk about. I don't want to.
We'll get. Okay. All right. So, like I was saying, Adam, we know you love this album.
Love it.
I love it.
Johnny loves this album. I love this album. Adam, do you want to go into your spiel about my almost 9-month-old daughter?
Yeah. I mean, sure. Paul showed me this album. I'm sure Paul didn't show you this album. We all love this album. But John, who gives a shit? Because there's a 9-month-old child upstairs. A beautiful little angel upstairs.
Who you met? Who you met? She's got beautiful eyes, right?
She does.
And
they're still blue. They're still blue. And once we get past the 9-month mark,
I'm just dying to see where this is going.
That beautiful little angel upstairs. Her opinion matters so much more than ours. So, Paul, what's the Regina factor on this album?
The Regina factor is this. So
just know that I'm going to disown your daughter.
So hang on a second. This is the same daughter that was like engrossed in Hairspray.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So listen. So here's the thing. So Adam and I talk about this, right? We talk about how this child, this beautiful, loving daughter of mine, knows music and she knows what she likes. You saw how engrossed she was in Hairspray. Like so. Yeah.
And I thought Paul was bullshitting until you played something. I can't remember what it was. It was very early on in the run of the podcast. You played something and she lost her shit. And I was like, oh, he's not fucking around when he says she likes stuff.
This is a third-party expert coming in and seeing that, like, when we ate dinner tonight, which I made you a nice dinner, didn't I?
Delicious. It was very
Those fucking sweet potatoes were.
They were on
point. I don't eat sweet potatoes enough, and I fucking love them.
Those mushrooms are on point, too.
There is so much you can do with sweet potato, and mushrooms are fucking amazing. But at any rate, so when we were eating dinner, for the good majority of that, now, when she did start acting up, like, towards the end of dinner, well, she had a diaper full of shit, literally.
Yeah. Like, she was in a cage. It was a dirty protest.
Exactly. Exactly.
She was swinging it around.
But John can attest
shit on the edge of the cage.
She was on the blanket.
Fucking Brits.
But John can attest to the fact that this girl, when she likes something, she's into it, right? So this isn't just me and Adam talking about, Adam's beautiful niece and my beautiful daughter. John now, who is a third-party expert, can say, oh no, I saw this child way into music and musical theater and stuff like that. So she knows her shit and she knows what she likes. So this initially almost went down as an indifferent. Reason being is that, number one, because we went on our camping trip. I did play it once before for her, and I thought she was enjoying it. Like when I went to the liquor store and I was called a fucking grandpa. Fuck you, motherfucking liquor store person. When we went to the liquor store,
Thank you for the liquor.
Yes, I was playing it in the car, but she fell asleep pretty quickly, which isn't necessarily indicative of liking or disliking, right? She was. I feel as if she was leaning towards liking because she didn't fall asleep until Fairy Tale New York. Yeah. Which is pretty good for her. So I didn't get a chance to play it for her again. So I was looking at it as indifferent overall until this afternoon. Katie was getting a shower. I was kind of getting dinner together. So I'm like, you know what? Let me play my vinyl version of it for her. Let's see if we can get a real good idea. So I put her in her little bouncy chair. TV wasn't on. She had some toys, like whatever. And I put it on. And again, sort of indifferent until the song Streets of Sorrow, Birmingham 6 came on. And this is where you know whether or not Regina likes an album. Streets of Sorrow, Birmingham 6 came on. She started singing.
No.
Right away,
Really?
Bang. That's the point. When Regina is singing a song on the album, I mean, of course, she can't talk. She did say daddy the other day, which is pretty fucking awesome. Very excited about that. She's said it twice since the first time, but you know, she'll match tones. Babies can match tones to music.
Yeah.
She was matching the tones of the song. She was playing with her little bunny, and she was singing along with the song. So right there, because of that, there is the Regina factor. She likes the album. So that brings Adam to 7 likes and 1 dislike, me to 6 likes and 2 dislikes, and 5 indifferent albums. So that is the Regina factor on this. Almost an indifferent, but I'm glad we got that last minute to be able to play the album for her. So she definitely likes it. So Adam, top 3 songs.
Can I look
You
at
can.
the track listing
As
real
we
quick?
are on
I actually have it in front of me here.
Because if I'm not mistaken,
almost 3 hours.
I heard you say. So, like I said, I listened to this album on iTunes, which was the expanded version of it.
Yes.
And then I looked up the track listing on Wikipedia, which is the CD version of it,
Yes.
not this.
Yes.
My favorite Pogue song
On this album.
on this album is not on this version. It's on the CD version.
Okay.
So
I'll tell you what, we'll count it.
we'll count it.
We'll count it.
South Australia.
Okay. Fair enough.
Really?
I love South Australia. I love South Australia. Every time I've ever seen Paul,
Do you like the
Play-
Birmingham 6 version
I
of
was gonna
South
say-
Australia better?
every time I hear Paul play with Birmingham 6, if I'm not there from the get-go and I come in late, I say, have you played South Australia?
Uh-huh.
If he says no, I say, can you play it for me?
So that is, it's funny because we talked about that. We
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah,
Body
yeah.
America. That's, you know, I'm sure you do the same thing. Now, Birmingham 6 does not work off of a set list, generally speaking. If we're playing festival shows, we'll work. If like
Right.
they're like you have 40 minutes, we'll work off a set list. Anything more than 40 minutes, we don't work off of a set list. But that being said, we have a closing set, which is usually Move On, Body American, South Australia, Ball and Chain. So we
and
do
Chain,
we do
that's a good
quite often do South Australia now, but that's like and it's funny because I don't think it's funny like the disconnect. I'm sure you have this too. The disconnect between yourself and the rest of the band. In my mind, that's always our closing set. Move On, Body American, South Australia, Ball and Chain. My band doesn't quite get that, so I always have to go over with them again. This is the last songs, but usually if I look, we have 15, 20 minutes left, I'll be like, this is what we're doing. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, go on. So South Australia,
So no, I will just say,
which we will count.
if we're gonna count it, South Australia, I can give you another top 3.
No. We'll count South Australia because honestly, I until this day, I actually, even though I own the vinyl version, I didn't realize South Australia wasn't on it.
Okay.
So because I had the CD version growing up, so
Number 2, we've talked about it a lot. I've heard specifically you mention it quite a few times. The Broad Majestic Shannon.
nice, beautiful song.
Fucking
Stunning.
Take My
Beautiful
Hand
song.
and Wipe Your Tears, babe, is fucking beautiful.
Yep,
Um,
another Birmingham 6 cover
yeah.
on the Kessel Run, the 2010 album that is available
Don't
on
get
iTunes
because
and Spotify.
All 3 of my top 3 are songs that Birmingham 6 covers. And then I'm gonna for number 3, I'm going to go Streets of Sorrow / Birmingham 6.
Off of the 2008 Birmingham 6 album,
And-
Iron Rations.
If I could give an honorable mention, that's just knocking on the window to come in. Lullaby of London.
Okay, that's very nice. Very
I
nice.
fucking love.
Very nice.
Yeah. May you all sleep tight down in hell tonight, or wherever you may be.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
So that song, I'll get into it. Anyway, go on, John. Your top 3.
I don't know, man. I've changed my mind like 10 times.
It's fucking rough with this album.
It is.
I think Turkish Song of the Damned.
Oh, it's a great song.
Thousands Are Sailing.
Thousands Are Sailing is like right behind
Yes.
Lullaby of London.
Lullaby of London, man. Oh, that line.
Yeah.
May they all sleep tight down in hell tonight, or wherever they may
Whatever you
be.
keep.
That's a rough one. I mean, Fall from the title track is amazing.
It is.
Fairy Tale New York. I mean, as much as you kind of like are over it, depending on the time of year.
Yes.
You know, this
I've recorded it. Like I've recorded that song properly. Like I recorded it for an XPN thing.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw this out. You and I should do a version of Lullaby London.
Yeah, it's a
We
great
should do
song.
it. We should do it.
This
I've been
album-
talking about collaborating.
Yeah.
We should do this.
This album was particularly difficult. John, you have kids?
No.
Oh yeah. This album, trying to make my top 3 for this album, was like trying to rank my favorite. My
Yeah.
It's fucking hard. It's really fucking hard.
It's like when people ask you, well, you come to the merch table and ask you what your favorite album, which album do you like the best? And like, I love them all, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know, Turkish Thousands. Come on, but I love the medley too.
The Battle March medley.
Yeah.
Yes, it is good.
Like I said, I love all of it.
You know, I don't even mind the instrumental.
I'm actually gonna go. I'm gonna steal one of yours. I'm actually gonna go with Streets of Sorrow.
Okay, nice.
well.
So here's what I say. So I'll start with this. There are at least 3 of these songs that are honorable mentions. You know what I mean? So like that's the thing. So I have my top 3 that I know are my definitive top 3. Then I have at least 3 songs that are honorable mentions, which means that this is a 13-track album, not including the bonus stuff. This is a 13-track album. So we're not counting Worms, so it's a 12-track album.
Yeah.
This is 50% of this album are my top 3 songs. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like
you could
that's
ask
what
me.
makes this.
You could ask me tomorrow, and I could. Give
It could change again.
Give you 3
Yes,
different
exactly.
songs.
Like honestly, it was more difficult for me to come up with my least favorite than it was my top 3. But my top 3 are number 1, Thousands Are Sailing. Just fucking all around amazing song. All the different parts to it, the lyrics, the meaning of the lyrics, everything that comes from top song, Thousands Are
The
Sailing.
one thing that always stands out to me in that song is and we raise a glass to JFK.
Yep. And a dozen more besides.
And a dozen more besides. It's the one, like, that's like...
When I got back to my empty room.
I suppose I must
I must have cried, yeah.
When I first started listening to this album and I couldn't remember the name of the song, I remembered that fucking lyric to Google the lyric to figure out what the name of the song was.
The other thing I like
and
about...
you like. I mean, I know. Like, you understand. Like, why? Like, I mean, it was like this Irish Catholic. This sort of fella who's. I mean, obviously, his dad made his money, and but it was kind of like that. We took ownership of JFK as well.
What always interested me was I asked our other brother Zach the one time. My ex-wife, her family is very Italian, and in the basement of her family home is it looked like almost like an oil painting of JFK.
Yeah.
So I get why the Irish were.
Well, Frank Sinatra got him elected with the mob,
and that's what I said. I said to our brother, I was like, I get the Irish, but what the fuck's up with Italians and JFK?
It was a Catholic thing.
Catholic.
So here's what I'll say too about like Thousands Are Sailing. One of the things I like about that song, it's the same thing I like about Luminaire's Ho Hey, right? They mention, and I talked about this with the Wonder Years, they mention specific spots, specific landmarks you can go to. It's
genuine.
And it's genuine. And that's one of the things I love about Thousands Are Sailing. It's like, I remember the one time, like, listening to, Ho Hey, what's the lyric about, meet me at Canal and Bowery.
I'll be standing on Canal and Bowery.
Right. And I didn't realize that was a real place until I fucking was in Brooklyn, and I made a right turn to park a car, because this was when I was working in the movie industry, because we were visiting our offices in Brooklyn, and I looked to my left, and there's the fucking intersection of Canal and Bowery.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh fuck, that's real. This guy in this song, which is an amazing song, was writing about a real person at a real intersection in fucking Brooklyn. Yeah. And this song, Thousands Are Sailing, writes about real fucking places and real fucking people. And that's my connection. That's my ultimate connection to this song, which is why Thousands Are Sailing is my number 1. Yeah. My number 2, We've talked about it a bunch of times. I'm actually kind of surprised neither one of you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Bottle of Smoke.
Yeah, it's great.
Fucking love that song. I fucking just there's something about that song. To go from Fall for Grace of God to Bottle of Smoke, it's like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. Number 3, honestly, and this is a song that I mentioned. I would mention it. Low by London.
Yeah.
This song actually reminds me of my grandmother Kitty, and especially Kitty, bring it up for Kitty, and especially when my grandfather had passed away. This song made me think of Kitty there. But like I said, there are at least 3 songs on this album, at least 3, that would be honorable mentions to my top 3. So it's like 50% of the album just off the bat is our top songs there. So with that being said, and as hard as it is to do, and not including Worms, Adam, least favorite song.
So on my little post-it note that I have right here,
all right, Adam, keep talking. Talk for a minute.
on my post-it note right here, I have Worms. But I know Worms was not because I wrote it down and I wrote something else because I knew it wouldn't be an acceptable answer. I went with Sit Down by the Fire.
So that's instrumental.
No.
Well, I mean, okay, yeah, okay, sorry.
And we've talked. Me and Paul have talked about this a bunch of times when we've covered albums in the past. It's not that it's a bad song. You get a thing of grapes. One of those grapes is going to be shitty, but the rest of those grapes are going to be great. So
it's if it was on, it's the shittiest album on this song, but if it was on another album, it would be the best song on that album.
Exactly. Yes. It's not that it's a bad song. It's just that to me, everything else, with the exception of Worms, it's just better. And I had to really, really, like I said, I was listening to the wrong version of this album.
Right.
So I had to really, like, I was looking over the and then I realized when I was looking over the Wikipedia track listing that that's the CD
Sorry about
track
that.
listing. Yeah. So I had to
your mic
really,
went a little bad there for a minute.
That's okay. It's all
I had to
right, man.
really, really go over and over and over the track list to find, like, if you have a group of something, one of them has to be the weakest.
Mm-hmm.
Me and our brother Zach talked about it with Game of Thrones. It's revered as one of the greatest shows in television history. But by default, one of those episodes has to be the shittiest. I'm going to go Sit Down by the Fire.
Okay. So, real quick, before you give your least, can we just talk about, and we generally say fuck off to instrumentals. Can we just mention how actually excellent and how encompassing
there's the instrumentals
Metropolis is?
The instrumentals on this album come nowhere near the bottom of the list.
Metropolis is one of those songs that, like, even though it's a total instrumental, that proves to me how great this album and how groundbreaking it is. That
also, like how they were like expanding as musicians.
Exactly.
It was amazing.
Exactly,
like,
because
and I think that's what, Peace and Love gets kind of like knocked around a bit, but I love that record. But but holy shit, the musicianship on that record.
The musicianship on
stunning.
Metropolis too. Like, and again,
musicianship on this album, and then I do believe musically, even though songwriting wise, Peace and Love is a dip. But it's a musicianship on it.
You have an album that like you have a song, Metropolis, that incorporates traditional Irish music with jazz and rock and puts it all together as a fucking instrumental, not even as like a fucking like song that like happens to and has lyrics to it. It's I am so glad that you haven't mentioned Metropolis, and I'm assuming you're not going to.
I'm not. But I kind of felt like it was maybe a cheat, and I'm a lyric guy,
I will mention Metropolis. Do you know like Metropolis? When I hear Metropolis, do you know what it makes me think of?
What?
Spy movies.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yes. It's very.
You can see that as like.
It's definitely a nod to like the James Bond.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So, John, least favorite song?
I'm going to go with I'm gonna go with Fiesta.
Oh,
I love Fiesta. I'm gonna put Fiesta
Yes.
at the bottom as number 12 of 12 amazing songs.
Guys, just so you know, and I know that we're usually, this may end up being our longest podcast ever. But
edit this down, Jack.
But
for fuck's
no,
sake.
it's not getting edited down. He doesn't edit much. He really doesn't. So I just got a message from my beautiful wife, Katie, not Katai. That's your girlfriend. Shh, baby sleeping. So we have
let's
to
wrap it up.
We have to bring it down a little bit. No, we have like another segment after this. We just can't yell too much, which is probably my fault.
I gotta go home. I gotta drive an hour and 20 minutes.
I know, right? So you're going with, I'm sorry,
I
what?
think I'm gonna go Fiesta.
Fiesta? Okay.
I mean, it's between.
just the.
It's hard.
Honestly, just the opening line, the opening lyric of Fiesta gets me.
And I know I love it, and it's I played it. We played it a bunch.
Yes.
Especially when we had a horn section, we played.
Which is funny because when
I love playing it, but I can't. I don't know.
When we drew it and Paul pulled the album out of his pile, it really intrigued me that the sticker on the cellophane includes Fiesta. Like I didn't realize
it was the
single.
third.
Yeah,
It was the third single. Off the album,
I did not realize that like Fiesta
they actually made a video for it. No, it was probably on 120 minutes.
The video
nothing else on
hilarious.
MTV.
In my head, Fiesta
maybe I
would
gotta
be,
change my mind.
like, wouldn't it be one of the songs I would make a single on this
All right.
album?
So before you change your mind, I'm gonna go on to my top.
All right,
so
go with yours.
All right.
Your bottom.
This my bottom. So this was the hard thing. So the first thing I wrote was Fiesta. Okay, because for whatever reason, when this song came out, or when I heard this song, I just didn't like Fiesta. However, I wrote maybe Sit Down by the Fire, but really Worms. But we're not actually counting that as the song. But and that was the thing. So I've always actually had it in my mind that I didn't like Fiesta, but over this week, listening to this album, and I think that goes with like sometimes like your tastes change as like things go on. Like what do they say? Your taste buds change every 7 years or some shit like that. I think this past week listening to this album, Fiesta is not my least favorite song, and so what do we list, like what do we generally go by? And I actually ventured back to you, is what do you usually go by as your least favorite song? You go by as the least memorable song on the album, not necessarily the worst song on the album, the least memorable
the one
song.
you might skip.
Exactly.
The one you might kind of go.
So that's why I kind of go by Sit Down by the Fire, but I don't even know, like that is the hardest part about this album, because like easily, I name my top three: Thousands Are Sailing, Bottle of Smoke, Lullaby London, not a doubt. So my three honorable mention are easily Fall from Grace, Turkish Song of the Dam, Birmingham 6, Streets of Sorrow, Birmingham 6. So that's 6 songs there. And I even go further, like, man, I fucking love Broad Majestic Shannon. It's a fucking beautiful song. And like, and then even Fairy Tale New York is a beautiful song. And Metropolis, for the reasons I talked about it, like it incorporates, even though it's an instrumental, it incorporates so much into these things. And then Fiesta, because how do I sit there and say that Metropolis incorporates jazz and rock and folk, incorporates into that song, and then turn around and say, but Fiesta is a shit song? I can't do that. So that's why it's so hard.
To go back to what we were talking about earlier, I think you could argue Fiesta is the most punk rock song on this album.
Attitude-wide, absolutely.
Because
absolutely,
what the fuck?
Absolutely,
like,
what the fuck is that? So that
exactly.
That's So I probably, if I had to settle on one, it's probably Sit Down by the Fire. But I don't even dislike Sit Down by the Fire.
Yeah. And I say,
I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go into the extended tracks and probably say the Battle March, because it's another instrumental that I don't really care that much about.
I would do.
Yes,
if you're going the extended ones, I'm doing South Australia.
Really?
As your bottom?
Yeah, because it's
I fucking love South Australia.
Yeah, but it's like it's. I'm fine.
I got you. It's an easy.
I'm okay
So
with it.
fucking
Like it's
good.
fine.
All
Like
right,
it's you know.
But hey, that's fair. That I
But
think
it's something I found very interesting because when I was unintentionally listening to the expanded version of it, there's multiple instrumentals, and we've talked about it on past episodes where we've always
the pet sounds,
yeah,
as two
have
instrumentals.
always kind of
Yes.
defaulted as our
The
least favorite.
random record with the Carpenters, they had the instrumental.
But
Fuck that
I
shit.
wouldn't
Yes.
like the instrumentals on this.
Are
They fucking grab you.
yes.
And they keep you involved and they keep you interested.
I will
So-
tell you that this is the hardest album I've personally had with finding a least favorite.
Yeah.
And I think that's
When-
what
when,
I said earlier.
but when
this
when
might
we're
be the
With
best
the
album
extended
we've
one,
covered so
with the
far.
extended one, I know South Australia would actually be
Okay.
Again, not that there's anything wrong with South Australia. It's just I've heard it done. Like it's you know.
all right.
It's
So let me say this.
kind of like their version of the Irish.
So let me
Rover,
say this.
or, you know, which is
If-
if that was on there, I'd go like, okay, that's the bottom because it's been done. You know.
If now let's turn this around and I'm going to say we're going to include Worms as a real song. Where does that go?
Oh, Worms?
Yes.
Is at the bottom.
Yeah, bottom.
All right.
You could cut
yes.
this album right after the Broad Majestic
All right,
Shannon.
cool,
I mean,
cool.
Worms is
perfectly.
funny, you know, like, but
It
you know.
is. I had a fucking board game when I was a kid that was the fucking lyrics to the commercial.
So let's just all settle this that there are no bad songs on If I Should Fall from the Grace of God, with the exception of Worms.
And Worms is also great.
It is great.
And that's the thing.
Are you going to drink that beer?
No, I'm not.
All right, give me that
Not
fucking
yet.
beer.
It is. It's.
I'll take another one of these. Jimmy Jam.
There should be another one in there, which I probably should have drank one because of my diabetes. But
go.
alcohol generally lowers my sugar count.
I
But
would say this is by far the most difficult album we've
Yes.
covered. There's in everything that we've done.
still good.
There's always been a.
Just look at those fucking numbers.
There's always been a. This is the obvious. This is the
Yes.
obvious.
Yep.
Top. This,
This,
is the obvious.
this is
bottom.
this is not. Yes.
This
which-
is really fucking hard.
As I think as an overall album.
Which I think also says a lot that I'm saying the most difficult album for me has been an album that wasn't on my 25.
I can see that. Yeah.
Because I can take any of those albums and say top 3, bottom 1.
No, yeah,
without a
yeah.
doubt.
No, this is definitely yeah. No, I get that, and I mean, there's even other even other albums on my top 25, which I know that
These are yours here.
Yes.
these are mine here. These are the ones we did.
Right.
These are the ones we have yet to do. There are songs on these albums that like I'm looking on my 25 where I'm like no, I can pick my top, my least one very easily off of that. And there are other ones where I'm like, no, like, you know what I mean? But this one, yeah, this was absolutely difficult. If we were including Worms, just because, I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
It's what, like a minute?
Yeah.
Minute
And it's
30.
like the worms go in, the worms go out, and it is
It's almost like the credits.
yes,
You know, it's almost like this.
yes, and it is comical and it's fine, but you know, I didn't want any of us to take the easy way out and say that.
Yeah.
Same as like it would have been easy with Brand New. As much as I don't like that album, Brand New, what's it called? Deja Intendu. I didn't like the album, but it would have been so easy for me to just say it's the intro. That's
Yeah.
like whatever that first fucking song is.
Tattoo
That's my favorite.
Zaza,
Yes.
call it.
I didn't want to do that. That's too easy. I feel as if even if I don't like the album, I owe it more.
No.
I owe more to the album and the artists who've done it to really focus on full-fledged things than rather just some little fucking throwaway.
Yeah, so the way I've always looked at music, I actually just filled a thing out at work the other day where it was like your favorite just random topics, and one of them is music. And the way I've always looked at music is I may gravitate towards alternative emo music, but at the end of the day, you're very hard pressed to find something in a song that I don't like.
Right.
And it's rough, man.
Yep, it is rough.
I was excited. I was so fucking excited when I saw this album on your list, and I was so fucking bummed when it got pulled last week because I was like, "Fuck, I'm gonna have to pick a bottom of this album."
Yes,
and it's
yes.
fucking hard.
This might be like even I'm trying to think of like the other albums that are on there. It was actually pretty easy to pick a bottom. This one was difficult. So that says a lot.
I haven't listened to your Joshua Tree episode yet.
Which also makes me wonder, like,
what was your bottom on the Joshua Tree?
my bottom was Mothers of the Disappeared.
Yeah.
I see the track listing.
It's another tough one.
So here's the thing, not to play
Yeah,
revisionist history, and I know you wanted to be on this episode. That was the thing, guys.
Mine was One Tree Hill.
Yeah. Really? Oh, okay. So here's the thing, guys. So like obviously Adam knows his top 25. I know my top 25. I know I had certain people who I wanted to be guests on the podcast in general. So what I did was with those people is I sent them out the list of all 50 records. So certain people know all 50 records that we're going to be talking about. John is one of those. And I said to those people, hey, pick the albums that you would like to possibly guest on. So what happens is this, which is why sometimes in the case of last week's episode where we ended up not having a guest, one of the beauties, I think it's a beauty of our website, is that what we're going to do in a few minutes with the box of Michael is we're going to pick out what next week's episode is. We don't have it planned. We don't know what it is. So sometimes though, however, people have lives. Like I could say, for instance, there were many episodes over the past June, July, and August, which Frank Daly from Jameson Celtic Rock, friend of the podcast, said he wanted to be a guest on. However, I also knew from June, July, and August, Frank Daly was playing every Monday night at a show down in Wildwood. So I didn't even bother asking him because what's the point? I know, you know what I mean? Ultimately, we all have to work. And ultimately, when music is your work, you got to work. I did approach John last week about trying to be on the Joshua Tree episode. And we even tried switching it to Sunday because we usually record on Mondays. We tried to do it on a Sunday to try to fit that in. But unfortunately, with the times and what John had with his schedule, and then with my schedule, it didn't work out, which is why I'm actually so happy this week.
Oh man, no,
today.
I'm so
You know what I
happy
mean?
to make it up.
Like not that I wouldn't have appreciated you being on the Joshua Tree episode. I actually think I appreciate more you being on the
I mean,
Pogues,
both.
From Grace
I mean,
of
it's
God.
funny. They're both from the same, very similar time frame. When you're like in that sort of early mid-teens, and you're really just starting to form your own opinions. You know, you kind of go from like, oh, whatever, it's on the radio, and I like that one, and I like that one, and you start to.
I will tell you there's
really
another episode of one of my picks that you said that you wanted to be on that I am actually really, really, really fucking hoping that we can work out that you're going to be. I'm not going to mention what it is, but I really hope because with me the particular album that will come up is not an album that I think a lot of people would necessarily want to talk about. And so that interests me that you want to talk about it because I'm like, oh fuck, okay, maybe I'm not so alone in the world. So,
Now I gotta know.
Oh no, I'll tell you later. Right. So speaking of not so alone in the world, we have the Pogues, If I Should Fall from Grace with God here, and we do have a little contest going on between me and Adam. Not that anybody wins anything at the end except bragging rights, but we need to know.
I'm gonna make a trophy.
We should make a trophy. You should fucking do that. You Mr. fucking woodworker.
Yeah.
When can we start working on the dry bar? That's actually my real question. We need to start working on that before the next Booze and Vinyl episode.
Let's see what we pull.
Okay.
For next week.
All right, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need to talk about the Discogs value of this album here. So what I have is not an original pressing by any fucking means whatsoever. What I actually have is the 2015 180 gram Rhino Records reissue. Now, Rhino Records is a subsidiary of Warner Brothers Records. This album, I believe...
Oh, wait. I just realized that's super fucking interesting.
I'll
You
get there.
pulled-
I'll get there.
Okay.
I'll get there.
Okay.
It's on here. I'll get there. So Rhino Records. Now, I believe I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% on this, and honestly, I didn't see anything. I believe this album was originally released on Island Records, which was also what a lot of the early U2 stuff was released on. Basically, anything coming out of Ireland was, and correct me if I'm wrong, anything that made it in the U.S. that was released out of Ireland was on Island Records.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, a lot of it is. Yeah. So
they were
I
definitely
believe
pretty involved.
I believe even though, whatever record label they were on, I believe this was released on Island Records. Rhino is a subsidiary of Warner Brothers, so technically it's an ADA release. We've gotten into that between distributors of the major label and then its subsidiaries, such as Warner Brothers is ADA, Sony has Red, Universal is just kind of Universal. It's Universal Music Group. They kind of do what they do. But at any rate, this was what I have is a 2015 180 gram Rhino Records release, which Rhino Records does a lot of good stuff. It does not contain the bonus tracks that were released on the CD, just like the original vinyl, which I actually find pretty cool. That even though this is a release almost 30 years after the fact, they reverted back to how the original vinyl was released. That might have been a cost factor because honestly, like with the
Would have required a
time
second
trackers,
disc.
it probably would have required a second disc. I would be interested to see, and I think this album would warrant it, because we've talked about this. So you have like Acoustic Sounds puts out the analog production stuff, and then Music Direct puts out the mobile fidelity stuff. We've mentioned that, or I've mentioned it, where those like companies that are like these high fucking value pressings are these other fucking retailers. They're all the same company. I would be very interested to see an Analog Productions or a Music Fidelity or Mobile Fidelity pressing of this album, which would be probably a 2 LP 45 RPM release. But I don't know that will ever happen. So the inner sleeve, as you mentioned, as you were like, oh, I think that's interesting. So the inner sleeve on this copy has what is the original album cover on the North American release of this, on the CD and the cassette, which I had the CD. I never put those fucking two things together. This is the cover of the CD that I had, and like 1, 2, 3, 4 people over is James Joyce. Everybody else in this is the Pogues, which is pretty fucking awesome. So presumably this cover is what the original LP and CD in everywhere except North America when it was released. This is what it looked like. But it's cool. It's fucking cool. Yeah. And you can feel that. Like you can feel it without even taking the record out. You can feel it's a heavier fucking record. So, very good plus MSRP. Now, if I were to sell my copy, which I'm not going to do, I would probably put it at near mint, because I've only played it a handful of times and it basically sounds fucking new. But we're not going by near mint. We're going by very good plus, which is generally where OttsvilleRecordGarage.com lists its really good used records. Is that very good plus. We very rarely will list anything at near mint. Very good plus MSRP is $32.83, which brings it to $33. So my running total comes up to $436 to Adam's running total. Now I have 11 albums now because I've had 5 in a row. Adam's running total at 10 albums is $522. So it still puts you at plus $86 because of fucking Steel Train. Now, here's something I figured out earlier, and this is kind of a funny thing, and I don't know why I figure out this shit. This is just what I do with my brain. So you're right now, as far as your average records, right? Your average price per record on your 10 records be $52.20, basically bringing it up to $53 per record. If you took that $53, even taking into consideration the value of the Steel Train, if you took that $53 value and put it into the Steel Train, I'm actually beating you.
Yeah.
Because you would only be at $396.
So,
however,
you've said multiple times in the past that you feel like you're going to beat me.
No, you're going to beat me.
No, that's what I was saying. I'm sorry. You said multiple times that I'm going to beat you dollar-wise.
Yes.
I have a feeling that you are going to you're going to beat me, but not by much.
No, you're going to beat me, but I'm probably going to, because here's the thing. That one record, what I talked about, remember when we said, oh, you have this one record that's worth a stupid amount of money? We haven't hit yet.
Oh, fuck, I forgot that's right. It wasn't Steel Train.
We haven't, it wasn't
No,
Steel
you're
Train.
right. Fuck,
and we haven't hit it yet. And I know, I think I don't totally remember. It wasn't Steel Train. I fucking know it wasn't Steel Train. So there's another album in there that you have that's worth fucking buku bucks. I know you're going to beat me. Yeah. I know this, but I am going to make every excuse possible that why you're fucking beating me is because of a fucking shitty ass fucking Steel Train, which stole a bunch of 80 songs. Have you heard Steel Train?
No.
So here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say about this fucking Steel Train album. Number one, go listen to it. All right. Listen to it. Steel Train. They have 2 albums before that. Don't fucking care. Listen to Steel Train. It's listenable. It really is. It really is. But I said this in the thing. If we were hanging out and we were just shooting darts in the Ottsville Record Garage, which we do have a dartboard here in the Ottsville Record Garage, and you were like, I want to throw on Steel Train, I'd be like, fuck, all right, cool, go ahead, throw on Steel Train. Yeah. It's listenable. The problem is that on this, it's 12 tracks. This 12-track record, I can go through every single track and tell you what song they ripped off. To make their song. Yeah. It's a piece of fucking, but the album itself is fucking beautiful. The album, the actual vinyl pressing is fucking beautiful. I want to fucking frame it and never play it again. So fuck you, Steel Train. So the question is now, Adam, will you beat my 5 records in a row, or will I have the first double hat trick?
Double hat trick.
John, since you are our guest here, you get to pick from the box of money. How do you feel about Rush, just overall?
Nothing.
Thank you. So you don't have a favorite Rush album to put forward here?
I don't. Nah. That's
so you don't have a favorite.
Do that one.
I say whenever there's no favorite. This is
we just go Rush because this is the box of Michael, named after our brother Michael, who was a huge Rush fan, specifically Neil Peart.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of those bands I can appreciate the musicianship.
You can exactly. Oh, all right. Number 38. Here we go. Number 38. So the question is here with number 38.
Double hat trick?
Is this my double hat trick, or does Adam get back into the?
Because at this point, like you said last week, I'm just showing up to drink, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. This is pink.
Which means it's you.
No, it doesn't necessarily mean it's me. It's leaning towards me. It doesn't mean it's me. But it's me.
It's you.
It's me.
Wow.
I got 6 in a row. I got the double hat trick. This is an amazing album. I fucking love this album. I am going to put the Pogues, Fall from Grace, onto the side here. And I am going to pick out In Excess Kicks. Oh, fuck yeah.
You grabbed that. You didn't even fucking look.
Oh, I knew where it was.
Yeah,
I knew this is. Oh man! So we have 6 in a row for Paul the Country Hipster. Man, this was after your hat trick. I have hit 6 fucking in a row, dude. How does that happen? Wow.
This must be a reissue, right?
It is a reissue. Yeah. I do.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Do have a reissue.
It was not originally a double album, was it?
It was not. It was not. So this is actually. Here's what I will say is cool about this album. Is this is a fuck.
There's a lot of big singles on this album.
There are a lot of big singles. Okay, I got a couple people on this. We'll see who is available.
Can I be honest?
Yes.
This is one of your albums. When I looked at it, I was like, fuck, I don't want to.
Do you not want to because you've heard some songs on it that you don't like, or you don't want to because you don't know anything about it?
No, I like when I think In Excess, I think generic 80s bullshit.
That's absolutely what this is, buddy.
Exactly.
This is what this is.
I think generic 80s bullshit I don't care about.
I think the songwriting on this album there's some pretty solid songwriting.
Yeah.
So
there's a mullet. I'm staring at a mullet right now. A mullet holding a Telecaster.
And there was definitely like...
Not even a Telecaster.
Dude,
like
this has a fucking Vision Streetwear fucking skateboard on the cover, dude. Come on.
The album cover alone is fucking rough.
Come on.
And there's definitely a power ballad in there.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to sit through a power ballad.
I will say, okay, so I will throw this out, and I know I don't try to talk about the next album too much the week before, right? But I will say this, is that it actually worked out fucking perfectly. So at my wedding, when me and Katie got married last June, not June of 2023 to June of 2022, one of the cool things at Vivid Alpha is that the owner of the winery said, listen, this is my gift to you. We're going to do fireworks at your wedding. And I was like, oh my God, that's fucking amazing. So his then 13-year-old son was running through the fucking vines to set off fireworks, which is pretty fucking crazy because you see this kid like walking. But the song that was playing when the fireworks were going off was Never Tear Us Apart.
Yeah.
And which is on this album.
I was drunk, so I don't.
I was drunk too. And even though like we didn't plan this, we didn't do anything like this, the fireworks that went off during the song, it actually he somehow
just by mistake
set
it off in time.
Set it off all perfectly at the fireworks at our wedding. So that is one of the reasons why this holds a special place in my heart. There have actually been a couple versions of this released.
Every episode of the podcast should include John doing firework interpretive dances of a single off the album.
I dig it. So that is one of the reasons why this album is on here, because it worked perfectly. I get the 6-beat double fucking hat trick.
Double hat trick, man.
I'm fucking beautiful. I love it. It is great. Adam, do you have anything else to say about the Pogues, If I Should Fall from Grace with God?
No, just that if you haven't listened to it, go fucking listen to it. Because, like I said, trying to pick the top 3 and the bottom on this song was like trying to pick which one of your kids is the favorite.
Yes.
And it's really fucking hard. And this is a very, very fucking good album.
Which we know in season 1 it is Michael.
Yeah.
Yes. John, do you have anything to add to
I really don't. I mean, same thing. If you haven't delved in, then delve in. It is I think if you put on sort of a Spotify playlist of things in the genre of the Pogues, you're going to get a bunch of bands that are have been influenced by them but are not as good. The Pogues at their best were the best.
Yes.
So what did they used to say on a what was the Frank Sinatra radio station that Dad would always play? They would always say, often imitated, never equal.
Never equal. Yep. Absolutely. So I will say much of the same. I will also say this was a lot of fun. John, I hope we will have you back soon.
Yeah, I'd love to, yeah.
This is not one of the albums that you said
that
you
I found your lair.
Yes. I am very happy that you were here. Guys, go check out johnburnband.com. Man, like I'm serious. We should collab on Lullaby London. We should do a version of that.
Is there not like a recording studio in this?
We do not. I mean, it is giant.
Yours?
We have but
There's
honestly,
got to be a room so you can turn into a recording studio. Right?
Honestly, not for anything. We could probably use what we use here on the podcast, man. We should fucking do it. Yeah. I don't have a mandolin anymore, but like I could pull that out for this. You know what I mean?
Not necessary.
All right, cool. So, but we should do that. We should collab on some stuff. I know I've talked about other songwriting stuff with you. Yeah, I mean, I think that's all I got. Anybody else?
I just want to say thank you, John. It's
Yes.
very
Thank
nice
man.
meeting you
Lovely
today.
meeting you
Thank you
too.
so much
Yes.
for having
Yeah.
me.
Also-
Thanks for making me feel so welcome. Thank you.
November 24th, John Byrne Man at the World Cafe Live.
Yeah.
John's going to hook me and Adam up with some free tickets for that, some like comp passes, backstage
can do
passes,
that.
and all. And
It's only upstairs. It's not as fancy, but
oh, it's upstairs.
yeah.
Oh.
We do a couple upstairs now because they're kind of like our Tin Angel shows. You know,
Yeah,
like
it's a little weird upstairs,
nice.
huh?
I like it.
All
I
right,
love
we're
it.
going. We're
They
going.
really they did so much
see.
work.
Oh, are you gonna have to work on Black Friday?
Yeah. Isn't upstairs? The upstairs is a restaurant.
Restaurant slash.
I
I told you we
but
talked
it's
about
it's a
this.
venue. No, it's good.
Yeah,
They put a lot of work into that during COVID.
We
Like,
did.
The sound there is
Dude, it's
phenomenal. Yeah.
the upstairs is top
I've only
notch.
ever seen anything on the downstairs. I've
Yeah, yeah.
seen a concert and a recording of a podcast on the downstairs.
Gotcha.
All right. So at any rate, we're going to go to John's show on November 24th at the World Cafe Live. So you need to get out of work that day, and and we're going to hang out. We're going to check it out, and if nobody else has anything else to say,
Thank you, John. For
then it
coming.
is time to
Thank you, lads.
Mama!